Hello there, friends. This is Spencer Michaud, and today we're going to be talking about the new moon solar eclipse in the second decan of Aries. A really big, important lunation, new moon, new start, chapter marker, narrative resetter. This is a big one, folks. And we are going to break down all of the symbolism associated with it. We're going to look at tarot. We're going to look at I-Ching. We're going to look at spirits or daimons associated with a specific 10-degree section of the zodiac. We are going to talk about the other thematic things happening with other planets, including a Mercury Cazimi shortly afterwards, Mars conjoining Saturn. We're going to look at the host of the moon and the sun. We're going to talk about the degree of exaltation. We've got a lot of ground to cover today. And finally, we're going to take this lunation through the rising signs for you so that you can understand what this eclipse might be bringing to you personally. So, that's what we have on the docket for today. I am going to welcome a few friends here. Just let me know if you're here. If you're shy and you just are lurking in the background, just pop in, say hi in the chat. No worries. You don't have to say a whole bunch, but it's always nice knowing when you're all here. So I'm going to welcome some friends here. Uranus Ascending is joining us from Illinois. I think Aurora, Illinois. Nice to see you, friend. Hope you're doing well over there in the land of Lincoln. Mariana is here. Mariana says, hi, Spencer. Pleasure to be here once again with you all. Nice to see you, Mariana. I believe Mariana is joining us from Argentina. I don't know. How do I pronounce it? You tell me if I'm doing it right. I don't know if there's a hard G in that or not, but I'm just glad you're here, friend, and I hope things are going well with you, with everything that's going on in your country and in your area. Rachel Fletcher is here. Hello, Rachel. Nice to see you from Roanoke, Virginia. How you doing, friend? Always nice to see your face here as well. Appreciate all the support you've been sending our way, Rachel. Appreciate you and your generosity and for supporting my lovely partner, Tanya Andrews, and all her endeavors as well. So glad to see you here, and I hope things are going well for you down there in Virginia. And yeah, we'll try to break it down for you, friend. Lauren G is here. Says hi again from St. Louis. Nice to see you, Lauren. Hope everything. I saw your comment last week, and I was like, Lauren G, that sounds kind of like Warren G, regulators. So I'm glad that you're here, friend. Tammy Duller. Hi, everyone. Hi, Tammy. How you doing, friend? Nice to see you as well. Hope that you're having a great Friday afternoon, and I'm so grateful that all of you are able to join us here and participate, and just love your contributions to the chat and your ideas and sharing your stories. That's what makes this a special place and a safe space, and I couldn't do this type of work without all of your support. So thanks again for everyone that comes and is a regular and sharing your light. Okay. Yeah, don't be shy. If you're here, let me know. I know that we've got some lurkers here, who are, not necessarily interested in sharing all their thoughts, but I want to acknowledge you. I just want to say, hey, thank you. Carol is here. Hello from windy, cold Massachusetts. Nice to see you, Carol. Hope everything's going well your way, my friend. Okay, so those are some of the thoughts we have about welcoming some friends here. Let's kind of start diving into it in a second after a few announcements, and then we'll get into the astrology. For those of you who are unfamiliar with my work, if you're new here, welcome. Please do me a huge favor, like and subscribe to the channel. You are welcome here. The only rules we have here is really just be nice to each other. And that's kind of the thing that is the thread that goes throughout our ethos here at Spencer Michaud Astrology and our group that we're trying to create. But I am a professional astrologer. I like to break these things down every week. I also have offerings. If you are interested in getting a personalized reading where I look at all of the planets in your chart and look at the transits, look at the mythological narratives that have been going on, not only in your lifetime, but that are happening to you in real time and into the future, check out my website, Spencer Michaud Astrology. There's lots of different types of offerings for all different types of budgets. I really love working with all of you personally. We start to connect and have a much more intimate relationship when we are connecting in that manner. And I try to prepare as well for those readings as I do for these live streams. So nobody can accuse me of not being thorough when it comes to doing charts. So I would love to work with you. Please reach out. This might be a great time to get clear on what this new beginning in the new moon solar eclipse has for all of you. So don't be shy about that as well. I do have an Aries season sale also. I have a number of pre-recorded webinars on my website, spencermichaud.com. I have a number of them about the deckins, which is a technique that I use quite regularly on these chats. And these webinars are kind of the amalgamation of a lot of my integrative knowledge through tarot, through astrology, through daimons and spirits, astrological magic. All of these things are kind of infused into these webinars. So the Decans of Aries is on sale for 20% off right now. So check that out at the store button at spencermichaud.com. And then, of course, we have Third Coast Mojo, which is an astrological business that is created by my partner, Tanya Andrews. She is a wonderful root worker who loves to look at and find astrological elections to be able to harness the energy of the planets, the good energies, the stuff that we want to maybe mitigate some of the challenging energies we might have in our natal chart, or where we might be trying to figure out how to incorporate some kind of new goals, missions, etc. into our lives. And she has been busy, friends. She has really been working super hard and had a wonderful Mars and Capricorn election, exalted Mars, where she created not one, but 5 different offerings, including one that includes chips from a tree that a beaver had gnashed into. She calls that one iron teeth. So there's real like beaver chip in that one. It's really cool, like helping us bite through some of the obstacles in our life. She's got regular exalted Mars, which we are calling crown of horns, which I think is pretty cool. And there's some traditional root work formulations in there too, including a blockbuster where it helps you overcome obstacles in your life. There is a High John the Conqueror root oil, which helps you to overcome obstacles. And then there's a dragon's blood version as well, which is great for protection. So it was a really nice election in Capricorn 3. She's been working hard putting these products out there. And yeah, go support her at Third Coast Mojo on Etsy. I know that she would appreciate your support as well. All right, and finally, friends, last announcement. If you are enjoying the work that I'm doing here today, the best way to support the channel is to go to buymeacoffee.com and buy a coffee for me, or do a super chat with a little $sign in the chat here today. That really goes a huge, long way to be able to support the work that I'm doing. I come every week at around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Fridays and put a lot of work into crafting this broadcast. It's kind of like doing a PBS show every week. You know, you have to get all the graphics and all of the labels and all of these things and all the research involved. You have to kind of rehearse some of these things and have outlines so you know what you're going to talk about. Hopefully I make it look easy, but there's a lot that goes into it. I think that when you are able to prepare properly, that's when you can let the instincts take over. But the preparation does take time, and this is a great way to support the work that I'm doing and keep it accessible for the most amount of people. We have some really, really generous people here that donate regularly, and I really appreciate all of you. So thank you so much for those of you who are able to give. The easiest thing you can do to support the channel is to subscribe and to make sure that you like the video today, and just drop a comment in the video. That really helps with the algorithm and gets our message out to more and more people, and hopefully it'll find the people that it needs to find, and hopefully this work is helping to guide you and to help your experience be better, especially when it comes to some challenging stuff that we've got going on in the sky, and knowing when the right times are to move forward, when the good stuff's coming too. So thank you so much, everyone who's able to contribute to the channel. Okay, let me just check back in with the chat here, friends. Those are our announcements for the day. Wow, we've got people coming in. We got super chats coming. Oh my goodness, we got so many things coming in here. I want to, let's see. Let's do it in order. Cherry's channel is here. It says hi from Chico, California, aka the birthplace of one Aaron Rodgers. So shout out to Chico. This eclipse is on my midheaven. Oh my goodness, Cherry. That's going to be a big one for you, and potentially for the way that you put yourself out there into the world. And we'll break that down for you when we get to the rising signs as well. Mariana says, thank you, Spencer. You pronounced Argentina well. Argentina. Okay, so it is not a hard G. It's like a soft J there. Okay, good. I'm getting the hang of it. All right, trying my best to use the proper pronunciations for things. That's my Venus and Gemini and my Virgo still. I'm like, oh, am I getting this right? But I appreciate you being here, friend. Mr. Hindsight is here. Says namaste from gray and drippy San Francisco. Oh my goodness. Well, that's kind of par for the course out there, isn't it? But there's probably a beautiful view of the ocean and some seals hanging out on the beach and the rocks and whatnot. So hope that you're doing well over there, friend. Benel Dell is here. Says happy Friday from Madison, Wisconsin. Ooh, a place that is near and dear to my heart. I love Wisconsin. My grandparents, I used to live in Milwaukee, Waukesha in particular, and I loved going over and visiting them. And lifelong Green Bay Packers fan, and love the Bucks and all that. So glad when our Wisconsin friends are stopping in. Benel Dell says, would one of those Mars often help support someone with a Virgo Mars retrograde placement? That's a good question. So yeah, if we have difficult planetary placements in our chart, there are two different theories on that. One theory is having something like Mars in its exaltation, where it's Mars at its best, where it functions. It was direct. It was, I think it was on the midheaven in that chart. So able to put our energy towards achieving. So some astrologers and astro magicians would say, get yourself some stuff that has the best version of that planet. There are other astrologers that would say, use maybe the opposite energy, like Venus, to be able to mitigate some of the challenges of like a Mars retrograde or something like that. And in your case, Benaldo, you could go either way. There's some really beautiful Venus and Pisces offerings on the Etsy as well. So I hope that answers that. Again, there's two different opinions on it, but test it out. See what works for you. I mean, this is the thing when a lot of the times we're experimenting and see which of these things resonate with us. But I've been wearing some of the Mars stuff, and it's really been helping me get things done, especially biting through difficult, challenging things that I didn't really want to do. We've been, if you were following along last week, the furnace broke and been having to kind of get that fixed. And we finally did get it fixed, and you had to go through all the things to do that. But Mars oil helped a little bit. So I hope that answers your question, friend. Uranus Ascending says, any furnace news? So there you go. The furnace news, yeah. Yeah, the furnace got turned back on Monday after 5 days being off. So we were without regular heat for 5 days, although we did have one portable heater that we moved from room to room. But it was kind of exhausting, I will admit. And they came out and they fixed it. I'll give a shout out to my friends at Climate Tech in Ypsilanti. They were really great. But then it broke the next day again, and they came out and didn't charge us a second fee to be able to repair. They changed the gas valve the first time, and then the thermocouple had to be replaced again the second time. So we do have regular heat now. It was kind of expensive. It was about $600, but it could have been worse. And just glad that we have heat. Rachel says, Exalted Mars, Hardy Eyes. Yeah, check it out, Rachel. There's 5 different offerings on there. It's pretty amazing stuff. And again, I've been wearing it and testing it out. And, I've really enjoyed the energy. Benel Dell, thank you for the super sticker. Appreciate you, friend. Appreciate your generosity. Hope that I'm helping with with your Mars retrograde, Virgo retrograde Mars questions and things of that nature. I have Mars and Virgo in my chart. I don't have Mars retrograde, but it is in Virgo, and the Mars Capricorn stuff seems to agree with me, even though that it is opposite my natal sun. So that it might be challenging me to rise to a different type of energy than I would normally feel comfortable with. In that deckin, it's really about how can you strategize long term and do the things that you don't want to do that may be uncomfortable. And that's been good for me, since sometimes it's hard as a Cancer sun to get outside my comfort zone with like Taurus moon and things like that. So I highly recommend it. Benel Dell says, thank you, I have Venus and Pisces natively. Maybe she needs to step back from her heavy lifting a bit. Boundaries and all that. Yeah, Mars in Capricorn is great for setting boundaries and saying, you know what? No, I'm going to have to say no on that, and I'm going to, for this particular strategy, and I think it would be a good fit. Uranus Ascending says, yay, you could put off the new furnace for a while then. Old houses are lots of expensive work. You're telling me, friend. And I won't belabor this point since we have a lot of ground to cover today, but the furnace guys, our friends Jeff and Joe over there at Climate Tech, were like, yeah, this is an old furnace. It's kind of like keeping the old man running. Like, because I asked him, do we have to replace this? He's like, well, you could just keep the old guy running, So we'll see. But donate in that super chat today if you can, friends, because new furnaces ain't cheap, and we're living on borrowed time, I think, with that one. But sometimes you just have to prioritize, and that's what you do when things break down. You have to say, well, what are our priorities? How can we save for this thing? And how do we get to across the finish line? But thank you for checking in with me. Okay, friends, lots of great comments here. I really appreciate all of the great comments, the sharing of wisdom. I feel like this is a really great collaborative group where we're able to bring not only my thoughts and ideas to the fore, but to highlight some of your ideas that you're contributing. Because, astrology, we're all living these different experiences. And we're going to experience the transits in very different ways and through different lenses and perspectives. And I think it's valuable to be able to see that multitude of perspective, because we may be subjective about a certain planetary placement, a certain transit, and it helps to be able to see things from those multiple perspectives so that we can see it from a 30,000 point view instead of just from a personal view. All right. So thank you for everyone, and keep those comments coming today. All right, so let's kind of take a look at this. We've got a new moon solar eclipse in Aries II. Aries II, really, this is a fun deckin. It is a very quote unquote royal deckin, and let's take a look at the chart here, and we'll get it bigger for you. You can just see that we're looking at April 8th, 2024, about 2:20 p.m. Eastern time. Make the proper adjustments for your time zone. We have in my area, the ascendants in Leo, which is kind of cool because that's the ruler of this. The sun is the ruler of this chart. We have the sun at 19 degrees of Aries at its maximum degree of exaltation. That feels very poignant. Feels very much like, wow, this one, we should probably pay attention to this one because the sun is at the height of its power. Now, the moon is also going to be in this space. The moon doesn't have any special dignity there, which is a little bit unfortunate, but we can't have everything, right? When we have the sun in Aries II, we have the sun in its exaltation, we have the sun in its triplicity, and the sun in its own face. So it has all sorts of dignity, like all sorts of powers at this point. Now, I will give a caveat with that. When we have new moon solar eclipses, the name is going to tell you what is going to be happening there. The sun, solar, is going to be eclipsed, turned off, blocked, okay? And that brings me a little bit of concern about these energies. Now, without being doom and gloom about it, I think that I tend to believe that eclipses are narrative shifts. Ancient people and astrologers tended to look at them as malefic events because one of the forces of life, the sun or the moon, was being basically swallowed by what they perceived as a dark force, a dragon, a demon, some of those things. And so they didn't see it as necessarily a good omen. Now, we can think of it a little bit maybe more objectively, maybe with a slightly more scientific mind, where we can say, you know what, these are fated events. Okay, really important to keep that in mind, fated events. Anytime we have an eclipse, they are very close to the nodes of the moon, the north or the south node of the moon. And in this case, we have this eclipse near the north node. Okay, so here is the sun and the moon conjunct Rahu, the north node. Okay, so here's Rahu right here. Okay. And this, anytime we have a lunation, a new moon or a full moon, close to one of these particular points where the moon will cross over the ecliptic, we have an eclipse. And this is a point in the sky that we generally will associate with increase if we're looking at it through a Hellenistic lens. Evolutionary astrologers, modern evolutionary astrologers, look at it towards something you're trying to grow towards. I don't necessarily subscribe to that particular version of Rahu or the North Node. I think that I like to look at it through the Hellenistic lens of increase in material circumstances. I also like to look at it through the lens of Eastern astrological, mythological tradition, where Rahu was the severed head of a demon that was successful in consuming the elixir of immortality, but then had his head severed from his body from another more powerful deity, because you're not really allowed to do that. So what happened in that is Rahu was able to survive that beheading and now has an insatiable hunger for wherever it's moving through. So I think that one of the things that I like to think about with the North Node, and let's be clear about this, Western civilization considers increase as something good. More in some of the Eastern spiritual traditions, that desire is not necessarily something to aspire towards. They seem to think that K2 is a little bit more of a, I don't know if it's a benevolent influence, but maybe one more to aspire to, because you're releasing attachment. So I think that we have a point of increase in a space of the zodiac that is very much associated with desiring individuality, desiring personal power, personal sovereignty, being able to create your own rules, to create your own vision, to be a leader or a master of your own domain, I guess you could call it. And I think that there's some positive things about that, but just because a planet is at its degree of exaltation does not necessarily mean that it's a benevolent influence. I've seen some other threads going around in the astrological community about the possibility of the sun acting as a malefic. And I think that there's some meditations that we should maybe have around that. I'm not going to give a definitive answer one way or the other. This is more of a channel that likes to ask questions so that you can start to make some of those assertions yourself. But we have to ask the right questions. So in this case, we have a very strong sun that is being eclipsed. All right, maybe it's a turning off of personal power. That's a question I have too. Like, a lot of my thoughts and seeing the overarching narrative is like, this is a point of empowerment. But what happens when that sense of empowerment is eclipsed? What happens when the sun is actually turned off for a period of time? Well, the moon becomes a bigger player in that question. And we may have some underlying things that rise to the surface that we might not have even been aware of. I think that eclipses, they will, like, let's say we had a full moon lunar eclipse where the moon is being shut off, maybe the connection, the body is being cut off. There's an ending to a bodily influence potentially if it's a K2 eclipse, a south node eclipse. But we also might be experiencing a shut off of some maybe deeper seated fears, maybe some deeper seated emotions that might allow us to get solar clarity moving forward. Now, in this case, with the sun being turned off, maybe potentially there are instincts towards individuality, or maybe we have some more self-centered instincts that rise to the surface during this period. And they're going to be supercharged because of the connection with Rahu. Now, there's a few other things going on here, and I'm going to check in with the chat. Hey, what's going on, friends? Cookerzilla's here, says, yo, Spencer, happy eclipse season. Love that you say narrative shift. Yeah, that's a really important way of looking at eclipses. Like I said, we don't have to split hairs about whether they are good or bad events. I think that the most advanced spiritual people don't necessarily see things through the lens of good or bad. They see things as they are and how we react to them. And eclipse is another experience of, like, here is an event. Here is a new set of circumstances that are coming that we need to make adjustments to. Cookerzilla says, remember when I told everyone Scorpio Venus helped me quit weed after a stressful business trip? I feel into it again pretty hard. Oh my goodness, Cookerzilla. Pisces Venus has helped it not feel like a catastrophic event, even positive. But this very last minute of the Scorpio moon tells me it's time to give it up again. Well, Cookerzilla, maybe this is what's part of your eclipse story. We are in the Bardo period right now, friend. We are in the in-between place of the full moon lunar eclipse and the new moon solar eclipse. So maybe there's something that's you needing to let go of because we're still coming off of the eclipse that was related to K2, which is processing something old and eventually letting it go. Cookerzilla says, Sag rising, 12th house, Scorpio, Sun, Pluto, Venus. This last week has been the most I've took my foot off the gas in a while. Aries season slow to start, but feeling the fire again. And yeah, here's the other thing, friend. This may be an opportunity to make a new start after you've let go of something that didn't feel right for you, right? Even if we backslide every once in a while, okay? So I wish you luck with that, Cookerzilla. One day at a time. When we're dealing with overcoming addiction, whatever it is, whether it's something super serious or it's not maybe that serious, but it's not working for us. We just have to take one day at a time. We have to have a good support system, and we have to be gentle with ourselves. So I wish you luck with that, and be gentle to yourself, friend. Devin Sears says, good Venus day to the Spencerverse. Yes, and that's nice to see you, Devin. Hope you're doing well. We'll talk a little bit about Counter Antisha today, and Devin has been really instrumental in sending me some really nice materials to help me get more clear about that technique. So we'll talk about that today, but just want to give you a shout out, bud. KP1231 says, hi, Spencer, and everyone. Glad to be here listening at work. All right, I'm glad that we're the voice of your afternoon background today, Fred. Hope that you're doing well over there in Cleveland, Ohio. If you become a regular in the chats, I will eventually remember where you're from. Okay, so we've talked about the sun and the moon conjunct Rahu. Let's talk a little bit about some of the other features of this eclipse. We also have the sun and the moon conjunct Chiron. Now, this isn't something that we normally would look at from a traditional perspective, but since we are integrative, it's just more data. And oftentimes, the way that modern astrologers would look at a chart will be echoed by a traditional technique. So I think that because this is so close in conjoining degrees to the eclipse, we would be remiss if we didn't at least touch on it. So Chiron is an asteroid that is named after the centaur Chiron, who was both a musician, a healer, and a teacher. And he had a mortal wound from Hercules, from I believe the poison-tipped arrow of Hercules from the poison of the Hydra. And it was sort of a mistake. I think that there was like a stampede of centaurs at some point, and Hercules kind of got flustered, and an errant arrow struck Chiron in the leg or the thigh. I can't remember exactly the placement of it, but it was a wound that had difficulty healing. So what can we make of that? Maybe there is something that this eclipse is activating that feels like we're having to deal with an old trauma, or maybe a trauma that is still actively bringing us pain. We could also look at it through a different lens of this eclipse could be a new start around creative expression, because Chiron was a musician. A third lens we could look at Chiron through is Chiron as a teacher. Chiron was able to teach a number of different figures in classical Greek mythology. So maybe there is something where we're taking a leap to start sharing our wisdom and sharing our knowledge and sharing our light. And we might have to overcome fear of doing so, a fear of advocating for our own needs and sharing our royal decree. This decan of Aries is really about saying, this is who I am, this is what I believe, this is what I need. And that can sometimes be challenging for folks that have had that part of themselves repressed, whether just through circumstance, trauma, etc. And when we have Chiron active here, there may be some nerves that are touched on, okay? And since the sun is being eclipsed, It may be touching a lunar nerve, like it may be even like a bodily awareness of some sort of painful trauma. There may be something coming up where we feel just this. I think about like headaches. The Aries is associated with the head. I can imagine that, this, if we're experiencing stress, we could have a nasty headache or something like that around this eclipse that may be giving us a signal that we need to advocate for our own needs, or we need to take care of our bodies and things of that nature. When I was going through the furnace stresses, which I'll tell you what, like even though we had a space heater, it was about 50 degrees in every other room, and going and switching temperatures and being cold, your body, it takes a lot out of your body. It's not the easiest to sleep either. And I was experiencing some headaches in the beginning of the week, and I had a few of my family members were having some medical challenges around the same period of time, and they're okay, but there was just a lot of stresses coming at once, and there was financial stress around like, oh, the furnace, and we're gonna have to buy a new furnace and all those things. And I was getting headaches, and I was having a little bit of I was waking up at night and maybe like feeling a little bit, I don't know if it was a panic attack, but it was something where I was feeling like it was a little bit harder to breathe. And I'm feeling a lot better now, but that was kind of my body saying, hey, slow down. You feel the stress and the trauma, and it when we aren't, even if we aren't completely acknowledging that, the body, there's a book, basically the body keeps the score, right? And we have to listen to our bodies and try to come into that peaceful space. And what really helped me was, opening a window, getting enough oxygen, being able to like do deep breathing, to do various things to calm myself down, going for walks, those types of things, anything you can do to practice self-care. And I think that this is going to be important at this eclipse too, because there might be some pressures that come up that activate some of those kind of feelings. Lauren says, soon after Chiron entered Aries, my 10th house, I started my private practice as a psychotherapist. Good. So you're playing the role of Chiron, right? Helping to lead people to their own truth. So that's a great example of that, Lauren. Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. So this to me is the feeling that I'm getting with Chiron here. Now there's another feature of this a few more that we'll talk about. So we have Mercury retrograde in this chart, and Mercury retrograde is happening from April the 1st to April the 25th, and it's going to be co-present with this eclipse. And Mercury is retrograde in the third 10-degree section of Aries, which is related to being able to convince people with your social graces and charm, or conversely, repelling them through the way that you're communicating. So if we look at the second decan and we say, this is the time where we are establishing who we are. The third decan says, all right, I've established who and what the rules are and who I am and what my vision is. Who wants to come along, right? So with Mercury retrograde here, we may have to reevaluate or review the way that we're getting people on board with our vision. And we are going to, shortly after this eclipse, have a Mercury retrograde cazimi on the 11th at 22 degrees of Aries. So right after the eclipse, 3 days after the eclipse, Mercury is going to come together and be renewed in the heart of the sun. So I will give you a timeline with this in a second. Okay. Dina says, shake the body to release the energy. Yeah, I do that sometimes. I watch my cats and I watch them stretch out and shake, and that actually helps them with my joints too. So I'm there, Dina. Like, shake it off, right? Oh, Christelle says, thanks, Spencer. Appreciate you. I appreciate you, friend. Fun fact, my main 3-hour podcast friends are all Taurus moons. You all establish a good environment. Yeah, I think maybe that's a Taurus moon thing. We're just slow and steady wins the race. And maybe I do feel like Taurus moons have a part of our superpower. Having an exalted moon is an endurance, I think, for caring. So like being able to bring this like caring energy, like I can kind of, sometimes I don't even know how much time has elapsed. And That makes me feel good, Cookersville. I'm glad that we're establishing a safe space and that you're getting something out of these broadcasts, because that's my goal. All right. So Mercury Cazimi, 22 degrees of Aries. We're really kind of starting to understand what we need to do to get people on board with our vision. Okay. Now there's a couple other things that are really interesting here. Venus is also going to be moving under the sun's beams on the day of the eclipse. So you can see here that Venus at 4 degrees of Aries is within 15 degrees arc of separation from the sun. Now that is a really important point for any planet. I was reading about this the other day. I believe it was from Judith Hill, who is a medical astrologer. And if I'm getting the person wrong, forgive me, but they were talking about in their newsletter about a planet's strength, when it is at the moment of either stationing retrograde, turning direct, and also this moment of phasis, where the planet is either moving under the beams or emerging from the beams. So a planet can be speaking very loudly when it is in these particular areas. So in this case, Venus will have moved out of Pisces, where it is today, in its exaltation, and will move into its exile. Now, last week we talked about the movement from Pisces to Aries, and we likened it to the story of Ariel in The Little Mermaid, and her desire to be with someone. In response to that, she made a difficult deal. She traded her fins for legs. She made a deal with the devil, and she lost her voice. And she went into a world where she did not speak the language, where she did not understand the customs. And eventually that was a very difficult situation for her. In the original Hans Christian Andersen story, she was not successful in achieving the goal of making the prince fall in love with her, and she turned back into sea foam. So this is really fascinating to me. So we may be having an experience where we're trying to attract something, but we're going about it in a way that's very aggressive, that is very, where we're pursuing where we should let things come to us. Now, Venus is going to also be feeling, is going to be extra debilitated by traditional thinking by moving under the beams of the sun. It's weakened by going under the beams of the sun. So we may be trying to get what we want behind the scenes, because Venus will literally not be visible anymore. So not only are we trying to pursue when we might need to receive, but there's the powers of Venus are hidden, and we might be doing this like in a subversive type of way. So we have to really be careful of Venus type things during this point in time too. It is a super martial eclipse, and oftentimes Venus will help mitigate the challenges of a very Mars-like placement. But in this case, Venus isn't necessarily going to be very strong. Now, eventually we will have Venus being renewed in the heart of the sun. That happens, I believe, in June at 14 degrees of Gemini. So we have some time with Venus under the beams of the sun in a debilitated position. So this really could be the beginning of saying, you know what, I'm going to pursue what I want, like whoever I is. Or we're going to see things in the news where people are much more aggressive about getting what they want and much less inclined to compromise. So I do think that this narrative chapter marker is one of saying, I'm tired of asking for permission. I'm tired of trying to find a win-win situation. This is what I want. I'm going to go after it. Consequences be damned. Now, do I think that's what we should do? Not necessarily. I think that that's just the energy of the eclipse. I believe that these planets, these eclipses, astrology in general, are influences where we may feel compelled to act under those influences. Now, your maturity as a spiritual practitioner could lead you to make a different choice, even if you are feeling compelled to act under the auspices of the astrology. And that's a really important point. I think that oftentimes we're like, well, this is what we have to do because the planets are saying that this is the thing that's supported. I don't necessarily think that. And this is coming from someone with Venus stationary, okay? Like a powerful Venus in the 11th house in Gemini, with the moon in Taurus on the midheaven. Venus is my jam. And so this is coming from a voice or a mouthpiece for Venus that says, hey, don't forget about her. Hey, just because you want something doesn't mean you should run roughshod over everyone else in your life and create collateral damage. Joy Usher, an Australian astrologer, talks a lot about Aries energy and Mars Aries energy as just trying to dominate and without care or concern for the collateral damage that you may create. Whereas like Scorpio Mars energy is more about how can we win or defend ourselves, less aggressive, more defensive, and be efficient in that way, like a ninja, rather than just a brute, right? So really consider your desires and get clear about what you want without barreling through, and understand that your ability to create with social graces is going to probably be a little bit hindered. That doesn't mean that you can't try. It means you might just have to work a little bit harder. You may have to use your mental discipline. You may have to use your good communication skills. You may have to use your life experiences and your patience. Does that make sense? I hope that that's something that people resonate with. So I'm going to check back in with the chat here. Ani is here. What's up, Ani? Mariana says, this eclipse is on my MC and Saturn in the 11th house. I feel like I need Mercury retrograde to process all the big shifts ahead. I also love that Mercury and Venus will meet later in the month. Yeah, that's a good point too. So we are going to be able to think about how we pursue our own needs. We're going to get some clarity with the Mercury Cazimi coming together with the sun, a rebirth for mercurial things, potentially a rebirth for how we express ourselves. What I want to encourage all of you to do at this Mercury Cazimi, okay, that's built into this eclipse, is I want you to examine how you attract people and how you communicate and how you get people over to your vision, whatever that vision is. And I want you to ask yourself, is the way that I'm communicating, is it attracting people to what I hope will be support? Or am I repelling people with the way that I'm communicating? I think this is super important. A lot of times Aries placements can be very blunt, and that can really be counterproductive. You may feel like, oh, I don't have time to like butter somebody up. I don't have time to be nice. This is what has to happen. This is what needs to get done. Well, you might be delaying the cooperation that you hope to receive by not going through some of those social graces. And we may actually be able to get more of what we want if we're a little bit kinder, if we use our humor, if we use our ability to catch more flies with honey. I think that that's really a good advice for this eclipse as well. So I wish you good luck with that, Mariana. We'll break it down even further as we get to the Gemini rising version of the new Moon Solar Eclipse later on in the show. Dawn says, hi, everyone. Running a little behind this Good Friday. I hope you're doing well, Dawn. Nice to see you. I believe joining us from Mobile, Alabama. I hope I'm remembering that correctly. Ani is here, says, The Little Mermaid? Yeah, The Little Mermaid. Yeah, we're comparing Venus changing from her exaltation in Pisces, the oceanic sign under the sea, and how, like, you know, Sebastian is singing and there's octopuses with saxophones and everything is hunky-dory, to being at a place where she literally couldn't speak. She didn't know any of the customs. She was trying to pursue and trying to make someone fall in love with her, which is a fool's errand. And it isn't always successful. So maybe we got to be like the Little Mermaid here, or less like the Little Mermaid, and try not to force people into loving us and just be ourselves, and whatever that means. Yeah, we got to check in on our Saturn and Aries friends. Yeah, we're gonna have something coming up with that, with Neptune as well, coming into Aries eventually. And yeah, if you have Saturn and Aries, the eclipse is going to be activating a lot of that. So good call. Okay, can't stay. We'll catch you. We'll see you the next time, friends. Ani says, just want to let you know, Aries Deccan rocks and love Tanya's election oil and soap. I support you how I can. Gotta go see. Oh, thanks, Ani. Yeah, Tanya does some excellent, excellent astrological magic work and root work. And she works in the conjure root work tradition, and she has some soaps, she has some oils. They are all astrologically elected to and have beautiful herbs, and it's good stuff. I'm wearing a number of her oils today. I can't recommend it highly enough. And she has some really cool new Mars and Capricorn offerings, 5 actually. She has the regular Mars and Capricorn crown of horns, and then 4 other subsets that you can check out at Third Coast Mojo Etsy. All right. Hopefully when she moves into Taurus, that energy will settle a little bit. Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll break that down too. Dawn says, I believe planets are indicators of energy. It's up to us to utilize them in a particular manner. Yeah, the way that the ancients would think about that, Dawn, is that they considered the planets as deities, and they were in a cosmic courtroom trying to give witness and testimony on our fate. And they're giving arguments and saying, this person should do this, and like this person should do that. And sometimes they agree with each other, sometimes they don't. And I think that just because a planet is arguing in favor of some certain action, like you said, it doesn't necessarily mean we have to follow that planet's advice. Although, caveat, sometimes there are events, and eclipses are things to keep in mind like this. Whenever we're dealing with like the nodes of the moon or the nodes of fate, a lot of the times those aren't like just influences that we can decide to do or not do. They represent concrete events in our lives that we have to react to. And in this case, we may be influenced by the planet and have to understand how we are going to deal with the actions that it brings us. So let's say we have a situation in our life that was based on the previous lunar eclipse, where we're seeing the end of a contractual agreement, the end of a Libran quality, where we are having a situation where we can't rely on someone else's help or permission anymore. And then we get to the point where we have a new moon solar eclipse in Aries, where we say, okay, we can't rely on this help anymore. We have to make a new start. We desire to say we have to push forward under our own power. Now, the circumstances may require you to do that, but we have to think about how we are going to pursue that independence. Those things, I think, those are in our control. We could decide to run roughshod over everyone and say, I'm going to get what I want no matter what, and I'm not going to take no for an answer. Or you might be able to do it in a way that doesn't create all of that collateral damage, that is using your social graces to get people to want to support you rather than to strong arm them with authoritarianism into doing what you say without a choice. So those are the types of differences, I think, when we talk about fate versus free will. We talk about stoicism versus, whatever the opposite of that is. I think it's not either or. I think it's both. Mr. Hindsight says this eclipse will be opposite my sun, moon, solar eclipse. Help! Oh my goodness. So, Mr. Hindsight, I'm assuming that you have a Libra sun, moon. Yeah, when we have opposite energies to an eclipse, to a lunation, to transits, I think it's an opportunity for growth. I think it's an opportunity to get outside the box and to get outside our normal way of doing something. A lot of our Libra friends might be feeling like, oh my God, I just want everyone to be happy. Well, for everyone to be happy, that means that you also have to be happy and to get what you need. So this might be an opportunity for those of us who, and I say us because I have some Libra placements where oftentimes I will sacrifice my own needs for someone else's. So for us, sometimes we need to get what we need to be strong, to be able to help other people. So this might be an opportunity for that, Mr. Hindsight, to get the resources, the respect, whatever the initiative that you need so that you can be a great helper and a great teammate into the future. yeah, patience and perseverance is going to be important for this one, because we might feel like rushing with Aries. Aries doesn't really stop and ask questions or permission. It's just like, let's do it. Let's think about the consequences later. And we might need to be careful with that. Irma Hernandez is here. Nice to see you, Irma. Says this eclipse is hitting between my sun and Uranus and Libra. Oh, so we've got a number of our Libra friends stopping in. And so I hope that my advice for Mr. Hindsight was helpful for you as well, friend. Don says, remembering correctly indeed. Mobile, Alabama. Nice to see. My memory still works. So, yeah, like I said, folks, if you come regularly, tell me where you're from. Tell me a little bit about your life. I have a pretty sticky memory for a lot of those things. So I always love connecting in that way. Mr. Hindsight says, I have that wooden sun and moon too. Wooden. What does that mean, wooden? Well, let us know in the chat. Benel Dell says it's directly across from my Pluto. Yeah, I have. You know what? We were probably born in the same year or so, Benel Dell. Are you a 1980 baby? Because my Pluto is at 18 degrees of Libra. So we'll see what comes of this. I'm a little bit nervous, but so we live into the changes. If we constantly are coming to astrology with the expectations of a fearful event, we might not be able to react in a graceful way when whatever is presented to us starts to happen. So try not to come to it with fear. And this is me speaking to myself as well. Okay, so we talked about Venus moving under the sun's beams. We've talked about Mercury retrograde. We haven't talked about the host of the moon. We've got the sun in the degree of exaltation, 19 degrees Aries. We've touched on that a little bit. So with this Mars in the Pisces too, it is in aversion to the lunation. Now, we have a great intelligent member of our community here, Devin, who was pointing out last week when I was talking about the aversion that we have a secret line of communication between Mars and the eclipse, which is called Contra Anticia. And he sent me a lot of great material about Contra Anticia, and that is those are signs that hear each other, okay, that are able to, it's like a reluctant conjunction, Demetra George would describe it as. They have equal ascensional times on either side of that equinox. So certain signs rise over the horizon at various points. And it takes them a certain length of time to rise over the horizon. And Aries and Pisces have similar ascensional times. We have, Anticia. I'm trying to get all of my thoughts clear about this because this is something that I get a little bit confused on. So if I'm stammering, it's because I'm trying to get a difficult concept from my brain to my mouth. I think a better way to do this would be to read a little bit of an excerpt from Demetra George's Ancient Astrology and Theory and Practice, Volume 1. Now, she doesn't necessarily describe it as Anticia and Contra Anticia, but this is the concept that she's speaking towards. Signs sharing the same ascensional time. Certain sets of zodiacal signs, this is page 512, have the same ascensional times and thus share a sympathy which extends to planets occupying those signs. The ascensional time of a sign refers to the amount of time that the sign takes to completely rise over the horizon, based upon the number of degrees that pass over the midheaven as that zodiacal sign rises. The signs of long and short ascension are demarcated by the solstitial axis of Capricorn and Cancer. However, when this zodiac arrangement is viewed from the equinoctial axis of Aries and Libra, we have parallel sets of signs with the same ascensional times. Thus, the signs of Aries and Pisces, Taurus and Aquarius, Gemini and Capricorn, Cancer and Sagittarius, Leo and Scorpio, and Virgo and Libra each take the same amount of time to rise over the horizon at given latitudes in the northern hemisphere. Okay? So, one other part of this says 4 of these 6 zodiacal signs are in aversion according to the aspect configuration model, but they nevertheless have a connection because of similar ascensions. For example, when a planet in Aries and a planet in Pisces are considered to be in aversion, they still have a sympathetic relationship because their natural aversion is mitigated by sharing the same ascensional time, and they are said to have a reluctant conjunction. So that's directly from the mouth of what I would consider one of the greatest modern practitioners of Hellenistic astrology, Demetra George. So a reluctant conjunction, that to me is very interesting. So even though Mars can't provide resources from a direct line of communication, it can from this counter Antisha reluctant conjunction type of relationship. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the Aries part of our chart, and we're going to have to think about what new start we're trying to move under our own power to create, how we might deliver our message to get what we need. Recognize that we have a strong desire for personal sovereignty because of Rahu and the North Node being there. We also may be less willing to compromise with Venus moving under the beams around that period of time. And we have to look directly to where Mars is going to be able to see where a secret place of support or desire is coming from. Okay. And I'll break that down with the rising signs, and we'll specifically talk about where do we want the new start, where the eclipse is, and what secret resources, reluctant resources, may we experience. Okay. So that's going to bring me back to another important part of this lunation, which is Mars conjoining Saturn at 14 degrees of Pisces a few days after the eclipse. So here is the Mars-Venus conjunction in Pisces. And we wouldn't be getting the whole picture if we were just saying Mars and Pisces. We have to understand that Mars is hitting a brick wall with its conjunction with Saturn. Mars-Saturn conjunctions are pretty frustrating. There's two ways we can think about them. The one metaphor I like for Mars-Saturn conjunctions is the gas and the brake simultaneously. Like we have a desire to move forward. We want to hit the gas, which is Mars. We want to take action, but we have a brake in Saturn that is trying to slow us down. And there's some frustration with a Mars-Saturn conjunction. Another way you can maybe think about it is, I think if Mars is the faster moving planet, in this case it is, right? Like unless there's a retrograde motion happening, I don't know if there's ever a time when Saturn's moving faster than Mars, but maybe there is. Maybe Mars is helping us to sever some of the boundaries that we may experience through Saturn. So if you think about it through a different lens, if you think about it in a way where Saturn sometimes puts up a wall in Pisces too, between our desires, our dreams, our imagination, and the manifestation of it in physical reality. Or conversely, you could think about it as Saturn is trying to make that dream real and showing us what is possible and what isn't. And maybe when Mars starts to hit Saturn, it's starting to break down some of those walls between our imaginations and what is real. Maybe it could also suggest a manifestation of a dream. I could even see it from that perspective as well, because we are reducing or severing some of the Mars, the Saturnian energy that keeps us from it. I do think that when both malefics are coming together like this in one particular place, it also can bring us some challenges in that area of the zodiac. So you might look to the Pisces area of your chart to see where you might be experiencing some challenging fortune. Some of it may be through a chronic condition, through your own actions with Saturn, a long-term thing that's been happening. Some of it could be acute misfortune that's through no fault of your own with Mars. I think that I tend to look at those malefics as Mars often brings us misfortune that isn't our fault. Saturn often brings us the consequences of our actions. Okay? Doesn't mean we can't learn from it and do things about it, though. Let's see. I'm just looking through the chat here again. Oh, and he says it's Ani's avatar made of wood. Got mine in Alaska. Nice. Mortal and Wild is here. What's up, friend? It says, another astrologer told me to expect disaster. It's on my Jupiter, squaring my nodes, and the Saturn Mars is on my Chiron. I've already lost all who were important to me. Oh, Carol. Here's the thing. I don't think it is useful for any of us as astrologers to tell anybody, client, community, audience, that a disaster is coming. What good does that do? And honestly, like, Carol, I think that the astrologer is malpractice. It's practicing astrology in a way that is harmful rather than helpful. So I guess if what astrology can do is prepare us for some challenging events. There's no doubt about that. There are times on this channel where I give some reality checks about saying this time period is more supportive of this type of action, and it may be a little bit more challenging to get this type of thing done. That being said, it's irresponsible as an astrologer to tell a client a disaster is coming for you. Like, just throw that out the window, Carol. And I totally get it. Carol is convalescing after. She says, don't worry, I took it with a pinch of salt. I'm glad to hear that. Carol is dealing with the challenge of losing a fur companion in the last few months. And I send my heart out to you. And I took a picture of my fur baby today. He just looked handsome in the sunlight. And I hope it's not making people sad to see my fur baby if they've lost one. But I think we should share our pets while we have them and enjoy them while they're in our lives. I would send some love also to my friend and student Mode, who lost their lizard. They have a bearded dragon that passed on, and so sending you love as well. I know that was a cherished companion for you as well. I get it. Like, the losing a cherished animal friend is so hard. But again, Carol, when you're ready, I know you take your time, but when you're ready, there's going to be an animal that out there, an animal companion that needs you, that you would be able to give your love to, that would, I think, be hopefully a good fit. I know nothing's going to replace that previous friend, but I do think that there's so many animals that need homes and that need someone who can give them love and support, food and shelter, that I hope that you can love again. Like, it's super hard. Pets teach us about impermanence, and they teach us about loving in the moment. But again, there's so many cats and dogs and animals that they would love to be your companion. They would love to love you and to receive your love. So I hope that maybe part of this eclipse for you, Carol, is opening your heart to love again and recognizing that you are worthy of love, whether it's from the human community, the animal community, whoever it is. And keep coming here. We'll support you. You got friends here. So hang in there, friend. Beneldell says, indeed, 1980s, the same Saturn, Mars, Jupiter, and Virgo, except all mine are retrograde. Oh, my goodness. Well, hopefully, hopefully we're dealing with it the best we can, right? Figuring it out. I'll try to break it down as best I can and share my experience, and we'll compare notes. Lisa's here. Says, yay, just in time for Contra and Tisha. Nice to see you, Lisa. The Mona Lisa. You got a nice picture of the Mona Lisa there. That's cool. I wonder if you're my friend Lisa that used to be in our classes, but if not, that's okay too. Welcome, new friend. Benaldell says, I'm sorry, Mortal. Wow, maybe this is the turning point, and disaster or not, better for it. Lost my folks in my life too. Super hard. Yeah. We are all going to have to experience loss. That is a reality of loving. And I think that we should continue to love rather than close our hearts off. And I know your chart, Mortal Mild. I know that you got a big heart. So don't close your heart off. Okay. Yeah, losing a pet is devastating, Lisa says. Absolutely. Dawn says, thank you, Spencer, for your compassion and care for everyone. I do my best, friend. I feel very deeply, and I feel a lot of the pain that people go through when I do my work as an astrologer, and um, I just try to alleviate some of that the best I can, and also just witness and acknowledge it without necessarily trying to fix it all the time. That's a mistake I've made in the past, is wanting to be a fixer for all of that pain rather than just acknowledge it and witness it and let people go through their process. Yeah, more like a pound of salt, Don says. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, Mortal Wild Carol says, I'm getting closer to being ready to adopt again. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I'm so glad to hear that, Carol. And you know what? It's so important to take that time to grieve the loss. And, there's no timetable as to when, you're ready or not ready. For me, when I lost my cherished kitty bear, who I had as a partner for, about 11 years, really had a strong relationship with kitty bear, a tabby cat, or an olive tabby, who was the sweetest cat. I just couldn't have a house without a pet. It was so lonely and empty that I was on a mission. And actually, yesterday was the 7-year anniversary of adopting Gandalf and Radagast. It was during Aries season. You can imagine during Aries season, a Cancer that was trying to adopt a pet. I was going to the Humane Society every day. I was checking their website every few hours. I was like, I have to give my love to something. And I found these 2 little furry babies, Gandalf and Radagast. And they were these long-haired boys, like little gray babies. And I was like, that's them. I found them. Because it's hard to find kittens during March for whatever reason in our area. It's not the breeding season for them. And I almost like Heisman'd another lady out of the way. I was like, I had already had all my paperwork ready and everything. And I'm like, I'll take them, like they're mine. Like, let's go. But we've had a really nice 7 years together, and I hope that we have, many, many more. All right. So that's, Mars conjunct Saturn. Let's get back on track like here a little bit. Always happy to take a break for compassion and to uplift people in the chat here today. Let's keep on rolling. So what is Mars and Saturn doing in that particular decan? Again, that decan of Pisces speaks to being able to bridge. It's a Jupiter decan, Jupiter ruled decan, to bridge heaven and earth, to bridge the imagination and reality, to bridge what is possible versus what we can dream up. So with the malefics there, I have a feeling that we may, I'll admit to all of you, the way I've been feeling lately is that there's a pretty big gap between what I'm hoping to be able to manifest and what I've been manifesting. And that's been a little bit painful. It feels like everything's in a holding pattern. Like there's a lot of projects that I want to work on and fix in our house, and a lot of things that I'd like to do. And a lot of it is dependent on, to be 100% honest, with increasing our income and our resources available to be able to do those projects. In our family, we've just kind of been hanging on by the skin of our teeth, trying to pay for an old house and have a mortgage that is a little bit probably a little bit difficult to figure out. And we're going to have to make some changes if we want to be able to fix the old things in the house, if we want to be able to do garden projects or any type of project. And the gap between what I've visualized for our home and our life and whatever life that we want to live and the reality of it, there's still a distance between it. And I wonder if a lot of you are feeling that as well. Like it just feels like it's just out of reach right now. And part of that might be the pre-eclipse, the in-between eclipse periods. And sometimes when we feel that sense of dissatisfaction, which Mars and Saturn might be bringing us in Pisces, it encourages us to make harder and more difficult changes that we might not normally have the energy or the impetus to pursue. So, like I've said on this channel many times, I have some difficulties with asking for what I need when it comes to support for the channel. Because I have an ethical commitment to keeping information available for the most amount of people. I'm really not into putting my material behind a paywall. Now, to be able to manifest the dream that I have, I may have to reconsider some of that and compromise or figure out ways to do that with without putting it behind a paywall or increase the ability for the channel to be supported. But it's not an easy thing to do. And like you've heard me talk about like a Patreon or all those things on the channel, and I still haven't done it yet because I just can't grasp it. I can't grasp what the right solution is. And there may be a situation in your life where you're trying to get what you need, but it's just out of reach. Like we have Carol who wants to love again, like with a new animal companion. And maybe the grief has just been too hard in the last few weeks, months, etc. And it feels just out of reach, that love, right? But maybe this eclipse is going to help us to overcome that out of reach position. Maybe like there will be some new things that I incorporate. Maybe I'll offer some new classes, webinars, etc., where I don't have to put them all behind paywall or put my channel behind a paywall, etc. But I can increase the apertures for abundance to flow so I can achieve some of my own personal goals and dreams. Maybe Carol will be able to finally get the processing the grief, right? And to the point where she's able to open her heart to love again and have a new animal companion. Maybe there's a situation in your life where you are finally able to bridge the gap to get what you need. Okay, so I really do think that's a part of it. And that's how I see the connection with Mars and Saturn and Pisces being kind of the secret connection to the Aries eclipse. Yeah, we've got Irma has Mars conjunct Saturn opposite my Venus. Oh my goodness. Oh, Irma. Oh, Irma, my goodness. A lot of my Venus Virgo friends are going through some tough stuff right now. Like just anybody with Virgo placements, all of the Pisces, Saturn, Mars stuff. I feel you. I've got a Virgo stellium, so there's some challenges that I'm sure that are coming down the pike. I have Venus opposite my Saturn today, and I'm going to have a Saturn opposition pretty soon, so I get it, friend. Dawn says, you have to be able to live, Spencer. Bless you. Well, thank you, Dawn. We do. You do. As a creator, you do have to be able to advocate for your own needs, and that's probably part of my own growth process is being able to advocate for my own needs in a way that will be able to get people on board rather than turn people off to it. So I'm being very vocal about my process on here and being very transparent about my process because I value everyone's opinion and I value everyone's intellectual contribution to the show. KP says, yes, the Mars-Saturn conjunction is on my natal north node. I can see the dream, but looking at it over a giant chasm, Sag rising. Yes, that's what it feels like, KP. An example of this, another example. We own a home that is an old home, but it was a duplex. And we've been wanting to just live in the home without having to rent it out. I just really was not into being a landlord. We kind of fell into purchasing the house after renting it for a long period of time, and we tried to move heaven and earth literally to stay here and to be able to purchase it. And it was functional when we were renting it out, and now that we don't have a tenant, it's harder. But my dream is to be able to live in my own space, and that dream, maybe there's a point where we're able to take down the barrier. There's literally a barrier between the downstairs and the upstairs. And maybe there will be a point where we can take down that barrier and be able to live within the entire house. Right now, it's just like empty space. But I don't feel comfortable doing that until we're able to afford it comfortably. And maybe here's another thing. Here's another example. I'm just using my own life as an example. Maybe the dream needs to change. Maybe the essence of what in my life of what I desire, which is privacy and being able to live under my own roof and my own power without having to live with someone else that isn't my family. Maybe that requires moving to a different place. Maybe part of my eclipse journey, which isn't just 1 month. An eclipse unfolds under many months and sometimes many years. Maybe it's realizing that the situation here isn't going to be able to be supported. Maybe this house is just too expensive. The taxes here are really high. Maybe there is a less expensive house in a more rural area where I can commune with nature that is a version of the dream, but it's just a different form. So those are the questions we're going to be asking ourselves. Is what is possible, what isn't. Do we have to shift the dream? What do we have to do to be able to and feel more independent? Dawn says, I see you, KP, Sag rising here as well. I feel like I'm heading out of apathy and grateful for it. Just don't know what the dream is yet. Yeah. Sometimes just knowing what your dream is and getting clear on it is hard. Your dreams change. That's something that I think is really important, is that dreams change. Just because you had a dream when you were younger does not mean that that has to be your dream now. Like I had a friend the other day I was talking to on the phone. He's a musician friend of mine, and he's very much still in the music world, and I'm really not. Like I'm fully committed to being a professional astrologer at this point. I still like to listen to music, and I'm trying to engage more with playing music on my own as a hobby, but I have no interest in doing music as a career anymore. None. That dream is dead. Right? I don't want to do that anymore. That wasn't for me. My life is different now. My desires are different now. The person and character that I am is different. And that's okay. And sometimes letting go of a dream of a different point in your life is healthy because you're acknowledging your present. So I do also feel Mars, Saturn, Pisces too. Which dreams need to die so that you can make a powerful new start of independence? Sometimes when we're hanging on to an old dream that just isn't feasible, that is deracinating our power. That's a fancy word for uprooting and cutting off our power, right? If you're trying to chase a dream that just isn't able to be manifested and you're being unrealistic about something in your life, what you're doing is you're just keeping yourself in purgatory. You're just keeping yourself not achieving independence, not achieving a dream, but still hanging on to it. And you know what happens when you do that? You suffer. That is how we create suffering, is by trying to swim upstream against our life and not accepting our circumstances. Now that is within reason. There are plenty of examples of people who achieved a dream through perseverance. I am not saying that you shouldn't try to overcome and persevere and that you should just surrender to any shitty circumstance in your life. Absolutely not. But if the dream in your heart isn't one that you truly feel is an authentic expression of who you are in this moment, you will cause yourself to suffer if you continue to try to pursue it. Does that make sense? It's interesting. It's so interesting to me. So interesting to me. Yeah, we've got 5 Virgo stelliums. This is the Virgo stellium chat today. Dawn says, I made a compost board to burn on the eclipse for what I know I am ready to let go of. Ooh, I love that, Dawn. I love that. I love it. I mean, that is a ritualization of letting go. All right. We need to be more okay with feeling like we're not a failure or we're not, ostracized for not achieving every single dream we had when we were 15 years old, 20 years old, 10 years old, 30 years old, whatever the time period that dream came up. And here's the thing, things change. We have kids. We have different responsibilities. Our guiding light is malleable. It's light, for crying out loud. It takes many different forms. But the essence, when you get clear about the essence of what you're trying to do, the how will be more revealed. So like if I go back to my example, I've always had a dream to have my own safe, sacred space. I'm a Cancer 2 sun. That's literally called the walled garden in 36 faces. I have a dream of having a safe space where I can just feel comfortable being myself, have privacy, have a garden, have a connection with nature where I don't need to put on a mask or adjust who I am and what my expression is for anybody in my space. And part of that comes from being a child that had to go into situations where I didn't feel welcome. Like I had 5 different step-parents growing up. I had to change and make adjustments to other people's energy all the time. And it wasn't always nice. There was a lot of conflicts involved. So for me, what makes me feel good is having that space, having that place where I don't have to be anything for anyone, And maybe that's here and maybe that looks different. But when I commit to that dream, the universe will bring miraculous manifestations of it, I think. I do think that that's when miracles can happen, is when we are committed to it in our heart, truly committed to it. Yeah, Mr. Hindsight says your sanctuary. Absolutely. Yes, I'm a firm believer in a sanctuary. I try to create that energy here in our digital space, a sacred sanctuary for us to be ourselves, to talk about the challenging things in our life and the beautiful things in our life, and for you to be yourself and be supported. And I will tell you, I'll defend that fiercely. Like, don't mistake my kindness for weakness. If someone comes here and fucks around with people, like, they're gone instantly. And it's happened without many of you knowing it. And it's Aries season, so we're getting a little fired up about it. But you have to protect that space. And I just hope that whatever dream that is coming to you at this eclipse, whatever clarity is coming to you, that you allow for flexibility in the how. I'm speaking directly to all you Virgo stelliums out there, because oftentimes, and myself included, we get really fixated on the how. We get really fixated on the function or the method or the form. And when we get much clearer and we pull back and see things and say, what is the emotional motivation that we're trying to achieve, rather than the physical one? The physical one can shift. It can shift, you know. And I'll tell you about this in my music career. When I was a music teacher and a musician, I wanted to connect people with the divine. I wanted to connect people through a shared language and help them to see and reflect their reality back to them. Does that sound like anything that we're doing here today? It does to me. It seems like the astrology is almost an even more direct line. Like, I don't have to like dress it up in chords and in poetry. I can say it bluntly and reflect back the reality through the symbols. But it is just another way to help connect and reflect and mirror people's reality. So to me, the essence of my music career is still playing out as a professional astrologer, as a teacher of astrology, as a connector of divine symbols. Now, the thing that both astrology and music have in common is that they are organized systems that can help us really connect through lowering our defenses and through this shared language. It's a shared language. So really, we're just speaking a different dialect. Some speak it through the language of music. Some speak it through the language of astrology. Some speak it through the language of athletics and sports. This is why when we had, a good friend on the show start to get down on sports and bemoan that people weren't supporting the arts anymore, I just don't buy that. I don't buy that, because they are all expressions of the divine, they can be divine expressions. Sports is poetry, but it's poetry in motion. It's kinesthetic poetry. Music is motion of air and space and relationships. Astrology is the movement of the planets, the music of the spheres. They are all an essence of a similar divine force, in my opinion. So, let's go back through the chat here. Mr. Hindsight says, long ago I gave readings to my friends, and as a practical joke, the first word I said was, oh no! Yeah. There are some times when I will look at the chart, Mr. Hindsight, and I will be like, it looks like you're going through a difficult time. And I try to have compassion for that person in the reading, rather than being like, oh my God, this is going to be so terrible. What you do, if you want to be a great astrologer and one who isn't causing harm, is you can identify some difficult transits, you identify some good ones, and you try to give people the tools to be able to work through those gracefully. Sometimes those tools are just patience. Sometimes those tools are gratitude. Sometimes those tools are ritualized grieving. So it is our responsibility as diviners, in my opinion, to give people those tools along with these insights. And I hope that you're feeling like you're getting that here today. Lisa says, dreams that need to die. That's such a great delineation of Mars, Saturn, and Pisces. Yeah, it feels right, doesn't it? It just it just feels that there are some dreams that we just need to let go of. And we'll be okay. Not every dream has to become real. You know what you do when you let an old dream die? You are planting the seed and making room for a new dream. Okay? It doesn't mean all your dreams are going to die. It just means that particular one might. And again, an old dream can be blocking a new one. I want to make that very clear. An old dream can sometimes be blocking a new one. I mean, I'm sorry to call my poor friend Carol out here, but Carol, the longer you hang on to the old relationship with your previous fur baby, the more you're blocking a new relationship with a new one. And again, I'm not mad at you or upset at you. That's not a bad thing. You're just taking your time. But if let's say that carried on for years, and that carried on where we just couldn't shake the old relationship, it's blocking the manifestation of a new version of that love. Not the same, will never be replaced, but it is love doesn't die. The love that we have for our pets doesn't die. The love that we have in our dreams never dies. It just takes a different form. I learned this with Kitty Bear. I love Kitty Bear. There was a time I spent a year hanging on to her form. When I probably should have let go a lot sooner. I spent 2 times a day helping to give her intravenous fluids for kidney disease, watched her waste away. And she died naturally, but she probably should have, the more humane thing in hindsight probably would have to be let go sooner. But there was times when I was like, I don't know if I will ever find another companion like this. And I didn't replace her, but I found through these unique individuals that I share my life with now, Gandalf and Radagast, just a different vehicle for that love. And it has been so, it fills me up. It's just a different vehicle. And how beautiful is it to accept that forms change, but the essence remains. This is if you want to think about it scientifically, matter is neither created nor destroyed. It just changes forms. It comes together and then it recedes. It comes in like the tide and it goes out like the tide. And I think that when we come to terms with that, we will be able to live with less suffering. There's always going to be pain. Letting go is painful. Suffering is when we hang on to something that we don't need to anymore, when we hold on to form and we don't accept that essence can change. Dawn says, Purgator. That resonates so deeply. Thank you. Oh, thank you. I'm glad to hear that. Lisa says, no one to hold them, no one to fold them. Absolutely. We bring music into the picture here. Now, just because I said I feel like my professional music dreams has died, it doesn't mean that I may not write music in the future. I could change my mind. We could all change our minds. Maybe when a particular dream the timing isn't right for it, maybe it comes back around later in life. Like I made a conscious decision to make a big shift during the pandemic to stop playing out in venues because the gigs were drying up, and I was a full-time parent. I'm not going to go on the road as a full-time parent. Now, with my daughter off to college and things of that nature, the circumstances have changed. But I really enjoy the work that I'm doing now, so I don't have regrets. But maybe in some time in the future, you might change your mind about what is motivating you. And just allow yourself to change. How much more peaceful would the world be if we just allowed ourselves to change rather than hung on to these old, outdated narratives, tooth and nail, right? I mean, a lot of the conflicts we see internationally between countries and between people are because we're holding on to these old stories that don't serve anyone. They really don't. Maybe they serve like a tiny, tiny fraction of the population that's trying to exploit everyone else and turn them against each other through their own weird bullshit narratives. But at the end of the day, those stories, they don't serve anyone. If we just flowed with the changes, if we came into alignment with the Tao, that would probably lead to a lot more peaceful experiences. I'll tell you, I've been watching a couple things. I'm watching a new cartoon that I like with my partner. It's called Kipo and the Age of Wonder Beasts. It's a lot like Steven Universe, but a lot of it is about a person whose love is able to bring different factions of people, animals, etc. together. And she just will not accept that that they have to fight. Same like with Steven. Like the power of his love brings people together. And after we watch Kipo, sometimes Tanya will go to sleep, and there'll be a funny thing that Star Trek has been coming on like the TV afterwards. I don't know if there's Trekkies out there, but my dad's a Trekkie, and I used to watch The Next Generation with him. This probably dates me, but and I was watching this recently, and just seeing a future where people were attempting to find peace with one another, and we're just exploring rather than trying to dominate. And of course there's conflicts that come up with that, but really, if you look at The Next Generation, the core of that is exploration and peaceful interaction. Although I will say this, just like this, I'm noticing it when they play The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager back to back to back on this like channel for aging Gen Xers or whatever it is, boomers at this point. There's a lot of like, I don't know, weird things for buy this old thing on the TV type of thing. But I digress. That show, man, Star Trek is a show for horny nerds. I'm gonna just put it out there that I didn't realize as a child how horn dog Star Trek actually is. Like, I didn't really notice this in Star Wars. Like, Star Wars seems maybe more for kids, but Star Trek is like for, there's a lot of sexuality infused with all that. I was surprised by that, and I just thought it was kind of funny. But again, the undercurrent of trying to find peace with one another and find respect for each other's differences runs throughout the thread of all of that. Irma says, my dream was to write a children's book, and I finally accomplished that when Pluto first ingressed into my solar 5th and 9th house in 2023. Ooh, good, Irma. That's cool. And, maybe there's some threads that come out from that. Maybe you've accomplished that dream. And here's the other thing. Maybe Mars, Saturn coming together is about, well, we've accomplished something. Now we need to let go of it and find a new motivation, find a new why, right? Like with my music career, I always wanted to make an album, and it took me like 10 years to get in the studio and get an album that I was happy with. And when I released it, there was like, I could have been like, yeah, I want to go make another album, but like I didn't feel that way. I kind of was like, oh, I did that. Now I need to do something else and learn something else. There was really a feeling like I achieved that dream. Now what? Right? And oftentimes that leaves us in a point of confusion, and we just have to live into the answer. Yeah, that is cool, Irma. Okay. FAFO. Love it. Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Hindsight says, astrology equals cycles, music equals octaves. Yes, I love that. KP says, that was beautiful. Thank you, Fred. I'm just riffing today, just getting in the zone, just letting the Aries passion flow through me today. Following any passion is art. I agree, Dawn, 100%. Mr. Hindsight says, oh, they were my friends. They knew me, and we both laughed, and we got serious. Art is my passion. Absolutely. Yeah, and all sorts of things can be our passions, right? Peas and Butter is here, says, came late, catching up at 1.25 speed. Oh, man. I feel like I'm speaking quickly today, so I'm probably going at warp speed. No pun intended with the Star Trek reference, like with 1.25 speed. What if I talk really fast like this? Sorry. Rachel says, wow, this conversation is bringing happy tears to me. Oh, good. My budgie parakeet Loki has taught me so much about unconditional love. Our animal loves are so incredible. Yes. Speak it from the rooftops, Rachel. Animals are so special. There's something, I was talking to Tanya about this the other day. I was nervous about watching the 3rd season of Kipo because, spoilers, there is animals in peril. And there's nothing that gets me more riled up than animals in peril and people mistreating animals and things of that nature. And I'll tell you what, it is so much we can learn from the sacrifices that we make for our animal friends and the services we're providing for them. And again, I will reiterate that they're not accessories, that we are learning about how to be servants to them, not like them to us, although they will give to us so much. But yeah, I was reminiscing about a movie. God, can you? The '80s was traumatic for like animals in peril. I mean, you've got like what is it? Artax the horse, and is that Ajax? Artax, like in the Neverending Story. I remember this movie Project X. Do you remember this movie with Matthew Broderick and Helen Hunt, where they had chimpanzees that were spoke sign language that they were using to do tests for the military and for like nuclear pilots, like how pilots would react in a nuclear explosion. That movie tore me up. It was awful. But those type of experiences, they give us access to, I think, to innocence and to caring for something that just really that we need to be stewards of, right? Irma says Mercury getting ready to retrograde is already starting to mess with me. Oh no. Well, hopefully we'll get through it together, friend. KP says laughing at the Star Trek thing. Now I understand why as kids my dad was unreachable during Star Trek. Oh my god. My poor Piscean father loved Star Trek, and yes, exactly. Like I think our parents were like, "Oh, we can't have the kids here with Star Trek because there's too many horny aliens in this show." There was some kind of as a kid, I probably would have been like, "Oh, what are they talking about here?" Like, especially in the Next Generation. Tani was stopping in and out while I was watching that, and there was a situation where Riker, right, was on an alien planet, and he was infiltrating an alien planet to gain information, and he was in I don't know if you remember this episode. He was in a sick bay because he had sustained an injury, and the nurse came in, and he's trying to escape. And she's like, we were both like, oh, there's going to be some like weird proposition here. And of course, the alien, who was played by Maris from Cheers, if you remember that actress, was like, I'm not going to let you leave unless you make love to me. And I've always wanted to make love to an alien. It was so like lecherous and funny. But it was so predictable because that's Star Trek from the 90s. And what I find funny about Star Trek is that even though they're trying to be so progressive, and they are for their time from the 60s, etc., there's still this undercurrent of like weird misogyny that was inherent in both the 60s and then in the 90s and moving forward that they just couldn't quite get past. But anyway, it's they still the core values of those shows, I think, is still positive and still about bridging and connecting cultures. So I think in that regard, they are both a product of their time, but progressive as well. Irma says, now my dream is to write a novel. I hope that works out for you, Irma. Manel Dell says, oh, Spencer, I'm reading The Hitchhiker's Guide with my 12-year-old. This is another one that is like, whoa, this is has way more sexual connotations than I remember. Yes. Yeah, science fiction has a surprising amount of that if you are... if you look into it deeply. Lisa says, all those sexy female aliens. Absolutely. You know what I noticed today too, as I was kind of like looking up some of the birth charts of said sexy female aliens? There's a lot of Pisceans, like 7 of 9 is a Pisces. I believe there was another like waitress in what is it? Deep Space Nine. That's a Pisces. I was realizing that like, man, Pisces is kind of like a sexy sign. You've got the ruler being Jupiter, which is of course, the procreator in traditional Greek mythology, but you've also got the exaltation of Venus. So there is this glamour to that sign that I'm just starting to make that connection. Like, wow, Pisces is a sexy sign. Benel Dell says the triple-breasted horror of erotica on 6. That's funny. Yeah, that's what it feels like. That every once in a while, that's what you'll get. Like you have that role being played out potentially. All right, friends. Thank you for going down this digression with me and going on these journeys. We need to lighten the mood every once in a while with some of this stuff. And so I think that we have done a pretty good job of breaking down the aspects here with the eclipse and going and connecting it with our lived stories and with our aspirational qualities. The final thing I'll say about the eclipse is that we do have the first aspect that is manifesting. Okay, here's the first aspect, which is the moon in Taurus sextiling Mars and Saturn at 14 degrees of Taurus. Okay, and when Mars and Saturn come together. And this is a technique in Hellenistic astrology where we kind of get the vibe of the lunation about the first aspect that it's making. So I actually think that this is somewhat good news for this eclipse because the moon's going to be in its exaltation, in its own face. I mean, this is very close to where my natal moon is at 15 degrees of Taurus. And it will be making a positive aspect to Mars and Saturn in Pisces. So maybe by accepting some of the reality, letting go of the old dream, being able to come to terms with what is or isn't possible, then we're able to create a routine to gain resources that we need to support the dreams that we have now that will move us forward. So I do think that this is a positive aspect as the moon gets released from the bond between its 15 degree of either a conjunction or an opposition with the sun and the moon. This is what they would consider being under the bond. And it does portend, I think, something positive coming out of the challenges of Mars and Saturn. Okay. Let's take a little break, friends. We're about an hour and 40 minutes here. Do me a huge favor. I'm going to remove this from the screen for a minute. I'm going to put myself back up here. Do me a huge favor. Let's take a stretch break. All right? We have to pay attention to our bodies. And I'm sorry, Big Steph, you're listening to this later that you can't see my belly button because I have a new camera program that just follows my face around. So you're just stuck with my with my bearded face here. But stretch out your body. When we are exercising and stretching our minds, we have to make sure that we're connecting with our bodies, that we're listening to them, and take this opportunity. Get yourself a drink of water. Stay hydrated. Practice that self-care. Be good to yourself. Do me a huge favor. Please like and subscribe this video. Wherever you're receiving this transmission, whatever it is, I don't announce this that much, but I am on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. So if you like consuming your content in an audio form, those are available. Please give me a good recommendation on there as well. Give me 5 stars on Apple Podcasts if you're on that platform. I have a SoundCloud where you can listen to this as well. But do me a favor and like and subscribe to the YouTube channel in particular. Really trying to grow this channel here, and your support is really helpful with that. Go over to spencermichaud.com. Check out the store for the Aries Deckins webinar sale, and check out the Book Now button if you want to reach out for a personalized reading. Love connecting with all of you, and that is a great way to do so. I'm going to, I had a friend that was like, shake it out. So I'm going to shake it out. I'm going to crack my back. There we go. Sometimes when I do that shaking motion, my hips will shake out and pop, which is fun as we get into our middle age here. You can also follow me at Spencer Michaud on Twitter, on Threads, and Instagram. So I'm Spencer Michaud Astrology here on YouTube, but it's just my name with no spaces, hyphens, etc. On all of those platforms. And if you want to see my beautiful kitty, Radagast, follow me on Instagram because I just posted a beautiful picture of him in the sun, looking, giving a come hither in the sun. he's a beautiful derp, and I love him. All right. Let's keep rolling, friends. Let me check in with the chat, check in with all of you. Steven's here. Says, hey, just arrived at break time. All right, Steven. Hope you're doing well, friend. Yeah, stretch break is needed. Absolutely. Okay. Prudence. What's up, Prudence? Says, these human meat sacks are so much work. I agree, Prudence. If we could just live in a consciousness bubble, we'll probably start doing that eventually, I'm sure. Although that sounds kind of horrible on some level too. But yes, you have to take care of these bodies. Tanya and I have been going through this too. We're in our mid-40s now, and certain things are breaking down and needing attention. We got to start taking care of a few things that you don't normally think about when you're a little bit younger. But, so it goes. That's part of being alive too, is dealing with with entropy and accepting those changes in our bodies, right? But yeah, I agree. They are a lot of work. Steve, it says, been seated in a lotus position. Oh, okay. Well, maybe I should try that. I have this chair that is helps me move a little bit. So like it's a combination chair and yoga ball. So hopefully that helps. So I'm not sitting in one position. So I'm kind of stretching out my shoulders are the things that get really. Let's see. I'm stretching my shoulders and my neck out. Those are the things that get sore when I'm doing these longer term ones. Always need a reminder of stretching. Yeah, me too. KP says, Mars was squaring my ascendant recently and I had a knee issue. Tried to run and can't do that when you're old. Yeah, you can't do that if you just haven't done it for a while. But yeah, I hear you. I had an ACL surgery a number of years ago playing basketball. I tore my ACL and I've had a couple knee surgeries. So sometimes I'll get some stuff in my knee. I think I injured my hip digging out roots in our compost pile. And I've had some hip challenges because of that. And then my shoulders are messed up too because I played baseball and I was an outfielder. And I was just as passionate about sports and I was as extra as I was, here in my baseball days. And I would just dive for every ball that I thought I could reach. And I separated and dislocated both of my shoulders a number of times. And those get crunchy. And we gotta take care of our teeth too, friends. Don't ignore your teeth. Those are things that require attention as you start to get older too, and taking good care of them. All right. Steven says, I'm near my mid-50s. I'm surprised I could still do all these positions. Well, that's the thing. Like, flexibility is super important. And we all have different levels of flexibility, of health. Sometimes people have gone through things where they, through no fault of their own, there's sustained injuries or illnesses, and sometimes we can't do all those things. So consider yourself lucky, Stephen, and keep up with with taking care of your health. And for those of you who have maybe less mobility or have some health challenges, just do what you can. Do what is good for you and right for you. Everybody has different levels of this, and I think that it's important to acknowledge that too. I consider it an enormous privilege to be able to have as good a health as I do. Mars makes me tired and hungry, Benel Dell says. Hurt and sweat Moon Mars coming into sextile with my cat Moon. Bugger. That's a heck of a comment there, friend. Yeah, cat Moon. That's a placement, right? Like that's something that sometimes we feel maybe in opposition with our body since it's the exile of the moon. A lot of cat moons who sometimes have challenges just accepting incarnation, and it's some work sometimes. KP says, got to keep moving. Yes, got to stay moving to keep moving. Yes, I agree with that. I love taking walks. I'm a walker, so I walk about 3 miles every day. And I've been encouraging my newly retired dad to do so, and he's been doing a lot more of that also. So encourage your parents, if you have them, family members. There's always ways to do that in a gentle way so we don't be annoying to folks. Steven says, always take care of my health. Natal Saturn and Taurus in the 6th. Oh, good. It's a major focus. Yeah, we all have different focuses. We all have different, strengths and weaknesses, my friend. All right, let's keep rolling. What do you say? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start taking a look at the rising signs for this eclipse. So I'm going to pull up my chart for each rising sign. I'm going to put Aries rising here first. And actually, before I do that, I'm gonna back off for a second real quick. What I didn't do is I didn't show you the slides for Aries II. Let me just go through that real quick, and then we'll do the deckin. The rising signs. So we got the sun and the moon in Aries II. So the decans of Aries here. So Aries II, themes to think about when I go through these rising signs in a second. I'll go through this really quickly. Royalty and personal sovereignty. Establishing character, values, and decrees. Remember, this face of Aries has many of the royal fixed stars and constellations that are around the pole of immortality, where those constellations don't rise or set in the same way as others do. They kind of just appear because they're near the pole. So this is a royal face. We've got Cepheus, Cassiopeia, Andromeda, and Perseus here. We've got the exaltation of the sun. The sun is about shining our own light and saying, this is who I am, right? We've got the Sephira, Bina, and Atziluth, which is a Saturn Sephira in the Kabbalistic tree of life. It's like an energy center or like a spiritual focus. So we're solidifying and concretizing passion. You know, we're giving form to our passion. We're saying, this is what my passion is, right? Remember in Aries 1, we talked about that in our breakdown. We say, this is what we're not. This is what I'm going to reject. This is not me. I'm separating from this. But in Aries 2, we're saying, okay, here's who I am. This is what I am. I'm going to establish structure around who and what I am. Okay. Stephen says Aries 2 is 11 to 20 degrees. Yeah, I would say 10 to 20 degrees, right? So we have we're going to include the 10th degree in that as well. And then I would go up to 19 degrees, 59 minutes. When we get into 20, we get into Aries 3. So that's a good clarification there. Benevolent rulership. Like when we are trying to become a leader, we can choose to lead through authoritarianism, or we could choose to lead through grace. And we can choose to lead in service of our own desires or in service of the people we're leading. So consider that as we move forward into this eclipse season as well. Creating your own world, really important for this decan is world creation. Being able to establish governance, okay? Unfurling leaves and active growth. It is in the northern hemisphere a point of quickening, a point of the ground heating up and the plants being able to start moving in the direction of growth. So questions to ask yourself about this particular decan. And of course, you can pick up this webinar at the store in my website, spencermichaud.com, 20% off until the end of Aries season. So how can you clarify and announce your values? How will you rule and serve this new territory with dignity, whatever new project it is that you're initiating? Where can you establish independence and self-governance? Where do you make your own rules and move under your own power, right? What skill set does healthy leadership require? And then finally, how can you take responsibility for your power, right? It's not just about willy-nilly unleashing power on people. Like that's when we create the collateral damage. You have to be responsible for your own actions. And you can say, this is me and this is who I'm going to be. But if your desires and show of power hurts other people, then that's not being responsible with power. So we have to make sure that we're keeping that in mind as well. All right, so that's our quick look at the decans of Aries. Please go support that work over there if you haven't picked that up yet. And now we're going to go back to our chart, and we're going to look at this through the rising sign. So we had a little bit of a false start there, forgive me, but I wanted to make sure I got that. And I got to hydrate. Okay. This will make the brain work better. Okay, my friends. Aries rising. Let's take a look at it. We always start with the rising sign of where the sun is moving through. So in this case, we have Aries rising. Aries isn't used to going first, so I guess this is not super out of the norm, but it'll change. You'll be last next time. You know, that's the wheel of fortune. It keeps turning. So Aries rising, and I'm going to go through these a little bit quicker. I want to have a hard stop time of 5 o'clock today, Eastern time. We've got an hour. So you think we can get through all 12 of these in an hour? I think we can. I will try to shoot for that. All right, so Aries rising, you have the eclipse happening in your first house. So this is a really important new start for you, Aries. There is some questions about asserting power, and maybe there's a wound about asserting power. There could also be a situation where your own sovereignty is temporarily eclipsed, right? Where there is a power outage. Some of it could be coming through your own self-doubt with Mars, uh, having a secret line of communication from the 12th house. There could be undermining forces in your life. Like maybe there's a dream that's holding you back that you need to let go of that will help you to move under your own power. Venus is going to be moving under the beams in your chart, and that's the ruler of your second house and your seventh house. So there could be some conflicts that are coming up, and you might have some strong desires, particularly related to how you seek pleasure with the sun. The moon is also bringing in the fourth house as the ruler of the fourth house. But Venus moving under the beams is going to be challenging for finances and relationships. So there could be something where you're having a disagreement about someone with money or something like that, a partner. Maybe there's a relationship that ended with the eclipse that was in your seventh house, and now you're trying to figure out how to support yourself now that you're not sharing resources with someone else. And maybe there's some undermining influences with that. But hang in there, Aries rising, because this is a challenging time for you, particularly. I have a friend who's an Aries sun, and he's recently moving out on his own. His mom's selling their house that he's lived with her for a long time. After his dad passed away, he moved back in with her for a period of time to help out, and she's like, I'm selling this. I got bad memories here. I need to get rid of this. And so he's out on his own again. And he recently had someone hacked his bank account and stole his money. And he was having a lot of challenges with the bank, trying to figure out what to do about that. So this is just an example of like how sometimes we can see the rising sign and the solar chart basically having overlapping themes, right? So he had the reduced support of like his mom, but then he was having something eclipsed, basically related to his money as well. So there, I do think for Aries rising, there's some kind of financial challenge potentially, but you may have to move under your own power, okay? Because the resources that you need aren't necessarily as available because of some wound or something that's happening around that. Okay. Prudence says, I have faith. Nice. Okay, we have faith. All right. Benaldell says, a Virgo and a Cap Stellium, we could listen for those even if Sag rising, right? With a Virgo and Cap Stellium, we could listen for those even if Sag rising. Yeah, absolutely. I think you can look at astrology through a lot of different lenses. I would listen both for your rising sign and your sun sign, but if you have a big stack up in a particular sign, looking at it through those relationships with like Virgo on the first can be very enlightening. I always really do pay attention to like the Cancer stuff that I talk about, and I see themes overlapping with that with my sun sign, even though I'm a Leo ascendant. All right, we got Stephen the Sag rising. KP says, my 79-year-old dad is an Aries rising and dealing with health issues that are limiting his mobility for the first time in his life. Really struggling as an independent Aries. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, KP. But it's a good example of maybe the power of the sun being eclipsed. You know, like at the degree of exaltation, we normally would be like, this is a super empowering eclipse. But maybe what we need to start doing is start looking at it in terms of maybe it's a power outage for that planet as well. And that we may have to shift our ideas around what is possible to do under our own power. So again, I don't like to make 100% declarative statements about these things. I think that there is so many different ways that the astrological themes can play out that exactly what KP is helping us to do here is being able to root your experience in real stories and look at the people in your life and connect it to the people in your life. That to me is the most instructive thing, is when we can connect the symbolism and see it play out in real time and connect it. Man, then we're cooking with gas there. So I wish your dad luck and you luck in trying to help him on his journey. I know, KP, we're probably similar ages, and we're getting to the age where our parents are getting older and we're seeing them become frail. I was talking to my dad the other day, and my mom's already passed. She had cancer and a stroke and passed, so dealing with the grief around that. That's going to be part of my journey on this eclipse. My mom passed 2 years ago on April 11th, so there will be some feelings that come up around that period of time for sure. But my dad's starting to sound older too. He's about 10 years younger than your dad, but he was a young father, and his voice is starting to sound shaky. Like nothing super discernible, but you could hear like a little bit like, oh wow, you sound old, Dad. Like it's just the habits of the best of us, right? Yeah, Steven's got an 89-year-old dad with the moon in Aries, and he is having mobility problems too. So there you go. Like the body related to the Aries concepts. So big changes for these folks that have Aries placements for sure. KP says, thank you. Yes, tough seeing your dad scared. Yeah. Oh my goodness, KP. I'm witnessing my recently retired father trying to navigate the internet and social media, and like he takes nature photography, he takes nature photos, and he's so afraid of like losing his anonymity by sharing his photographs online that he's really struggling. And it's weird to see people that you would normally see as just so competent and so strong, like having fear and trying to deal with the changes of a modern society and things of that nature. And I just tried to talk my dad through and be like, look, hey, just put it out there. Why are you doing this? Is it so that you can share your love of nature with people? Then don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Like you don't have to put your face out there. You know, you don't, if he's also, I'm such a chip off the old block. He's so afraid of success because he doesn't want it to shake up his routines, which is something that I can relate to super hardcore. He's a Taurus rising with Taurus Mars, and I'm a Taurus moon. So I've come by it honestly. I used to be afraid of being too successful that I just wouldn't have any time to do anything. But he's right though. Balance and moderation are the key. But oftentimes we fear things that aren't will never come to pass. And in my conversations with my own father, it's like, hey, just put it out there. Do you like taking pictures? Then share it with the world. And you don't have to do it if you don't want to. You worked for your entire life. You can just be if you want to as well. So I think that's something to encourage people to do as well. As like, we don't always have to be doing something all the time. We do it if it brings us joy, but we're allowed to be, especially if we've worked. My dad's worked for 40 years in corporate America, like eating all sorts of shit sandwiches in like, he worked for a fastener company, he worked for like an aerospace company, but he was like middle. He's a middle guy. He never wanted to ascend to the heights of that because he was like, I don't want to do all those ethically questionable things. And I respect him for that. I understand that now. But the structure that he had through his life he's missing that now, newly retired, and watching your folks go through those transitions. It can be both heartbreaking, but I think that they need us, right? Prudence says there's some groups that offer 3D print accessibility tools and rent out different kinds of wheelchairs and mobility tools so people can find which ones work for them. Like Techowlpa, Tech How LPA. Maybe that's what it is. Tech Owl PA. That's a good resource, Prudence. I mean, that is cool. Like using technology in a way to be able to help people to still do the things that they love. That is awesome. And I hope that becomes more popular. She's saying, oh, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, me too. I'm always in favor of seeing technology be using to alleviate people's suffering. And when there's a reason behind it like that, I'm all aboard. I just think that sometimes when we have, and I'm not saying this, I'm just, in other instances, science sometimes moves faster than the ethics around it. And those are the times when we have to really question what we're doing. But in this case, when we're using our technology to help people and to alleviate suffering, man, all for it. So thank you for that. All right. So Aries rising, first house, new moon, new start, especially with your body. We've had a lot of people talking about their bodies and Aries, their Aries parents, Aries people having changes with their body. I guess the last thing I'll say about this is we've got Jupiter and Uranus coming together shortly after this eclipse also. And there could be a start for Aries rising about changing your budget, changing the way that you deal with finances and remedying an old mistake. I really think that's what we're going to be doing with Jupiter Uranus. Maybe I'll do an entire live stream on this, but we're going to be dealing with Jupiter Uranus coming together, helping us to remedy something that may have fallen into disrepair. That's the third deck in Taurus. Patience, fixing the mistakes of the past through our rashness. Okay. So good luck with that, Aries rising, and let us know how it goes. Yeah, Prudence says amen. Yes, absolutely. Okay, let's go to Taurus rising. And I'm going to try to get through these so I can go get some dinner at 5 o'clock. I have to advocate for my own needs, right? For my own dietary needs. I love spending time with all of you. And again, I could just keep going and going and going. It's more just the needs of my body, just saying, hey, Mr. 43-year-old guy, you need to eat and you need to hydrate and you need to stretch. And other than that, you know, I could just keep on going. Okay, so Taurus rising. So this is an eclipse for you in the 12th house. And we have Mars and Saturn hosting, or Mars hosting, but coming together with Saturn in the 11th house. And then we have this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in your first house. So this is a potential new start / power outage. I want to talk about the power outages because the sun's going to be having a power outage, and that really doesn't work there. Hold on a second. Let's use purple for that. So the sun is the ruler of your 4th house, and for Aries rising, the sun is the ruler of your 5th. So maybe there could also be challenges around children or around how you seek pleasure in life for Aries rising. But for Taurus rising, this may be a new start in trying to find solitude, peace, rest. There could also be some challenges around, setting boundaries with someone who undermines your safety, your peace of mind. Okay. There may be an ending of a dream. Let's talk about the ending of the dream that we could have with Mars and Saturn. So for Aries rising, it could be the ending of the dream of solitude, or like maybe it's the coming together and the ending of a self-limiting narrative with the 12th house. But for Taurus rising, we have Mars coming together with Saturn in the 11th house. So there could be an ending to a certain dream of relations to a group that you're a part of something. It could also be benefits from the government. Maybe you're being cut off from something that supported you from a government agency. Like I know that there's a lot of people that are working with disability and things like that. And there might be some challenges with that potentially. This eclipse is turning off the sun, which is the host of your 4th house. So this could be a temporary lights out situation within your home, or like it could be literal. It could be just metaphorically. Like there could be a changing in your family that requires you to start moving under your own power in a certain way. Jupiter and Uranus are going to come together in your 1st house, bringing hopefully some benefit to maybe your own body and your own self-expression, where you're able to fix something that wasn't potentially working in the past due to maybe doing something too quickly. I know this isn't necessarily a Taurus rising, feature of doing something too quickly, but maybe there's something where you just didn't cross all the T's or dot the I's that will be fixed around this. And it could be related to your 8th house, your 8th house and your 11th house, resources that you share with a group or with a partner. Okay. So there could be something coming around that regard. If I bringing my, like the story of my father back into the seas of Taurus rising, he's spending a lot of unstructured time that he wasn't normally doing. Like he at this eclipse, this previous eclipse, he had the moon in the 6th house, the ending of like toil. And now the increase of this unstructured liminal space between like getting to kind of do whatever he wants, but feeling a little bit, unmoored with that. So that's one example of that. And maybe when he has the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, he will be able to find the type of material structures that will help bring him a sense of security once again. And with Mars and Saturn coming together in his 11th house, so I'm just trying to ground this for you. He has been cut off from the community that he had when he worked in, a regular 9 to 5 job. My dad's a somewhat antisocial Trekkie. Like the friends he had were from work. So he's trying to reestablish what is his community now that he doesn't have to go into work every day and see these people. So there is an ending around that can be unmooring. So that's just an example to give you like this is someone I know really well and I know his story, and you can utilize that in your own life, Taurus rising, and kind of fill in the gaps. As say, okay, I have the ending of a community potentially. Maybe I have more unstructured time now. Maybe there's going to be a brand new start where I'm trying to expand my skill set that will help me to do new things with Jupiter, Uranus. And maybe there's some changes within my home and my family life as well. So I hope that is helpful for you. Keep in mind, as I've been talking about all this, I really want all of you to look at the Venus placement here too, because Venus is moving under the beams. And for Taurus rising, Venus rules your first house and your sixth house. So this could be something where we might be trying to pursue something with our health, with work, but related to the body. But Venus is going to have trouble providing for both of those topics in your life. And if I go back just for a second to Aries rising, Venus is providing for your 7th house and your 2nd house. So Venus going under the beams could bring up challenges around those two topics. All right, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Gemini rising. I'm going to stand up for this one just because my butt hurts. Oh, it's sitting too much. All right, Gemini rising. Gemini rising has, let's see. See if I can get this working. There we go. I just have to make sure I have the right. Gemini rising, you have the eclipse, the new moon, solar eclipse in Aries in the 11th house. And there is a Mars-Saturn conjunction coming together with Mars hosting in the 10th house. Jupiter and Uranus are coming together shortly afterwards in your 12th. And the sun is providing resources for your 3rd house. Maybe a power outage related to 3rd house matters. Okay? So, let's talk about it. Yeah, Prudence. I got you, Prudence. I got you, Gemini rising. Prudence. How you doing? You dancing? Okay. So 11th house eclipse. This is a new start where you may have to move under your own power in a relationship with a group of people that you may share some values with. Again, the 11th house can also be related to resources of the king or the government. So this could also be about getting resources that you need. And I seem to remember there were some Gemini risings in the community that had recently had some different life changes that maybe there's something out there for you, Gemini risings, where there's resources that you might need that could help support you with the changes that you're going through. With Mars and Saturn coming together in your 10th house, maybe there's a shift of how you present to the world. Maybe there is some challenges around that, but also the death of one identity, public, and maybe the start of a new one. Jupiter and Uranus coming together in your 12th house, maybe there are some remedies coming about with your mental health, like with how you maybe self-sabotage, or maybe situations in your life that are undermining your life. It doesn't have to be self-sabotage. I think 12th house can be undermining influences, and that can be through other people. That can be through our own health. That can be through our own mental barriers that we put up, or just our situation. Sometimes it's not our fault. It's just a situation that we have, and you might get a real boost potentially to be able to solve some of those challenges with Jupiter coming together with Uranus. Now, the sun is the host of the 3rd house for Gemini rising, which is related to siblings, communication, short journeys. So there could be a temporary power outage with related to the 3rd house. or big changes around that as well with your everyday habits, I think is a third house signification as well. And there could be a strong desire for independence, especially when it comes to a group. Remember, Rahu is part of this eclipse. There's so many factors involved in this. Rahu is going to create a strong desire for independence, especially in the group. Now, Venus is going to be moving under the beams, and Venus is the host of your 12th house, okay, and your 5th house. So that could be a point of challenge, is dealing with how you seek pleasure. There could be some challenges with kids, could be some challenges with creative projects. Maybe there is a challenge with self-recrimination or defeatism around your creativity. And I would say be kind and gentle with yourself and patient with yourself around self-expression, around how you seek pleasure in the world, about romance. Remember, Venus is going to be in Aries, trying to pursue something when she's more comfortable letting things come to her. So whenever we have something ruling the 12th, the Taurus and Libra, those are two places where maybe it's better for us to be open to receiving, okay? And when we have Venus moving through Aries, we might get a little too aggressive, and that might push something away that we desire. All right, so Gemini rising. The other thing, Gemini rising, I will say, is that the ruler of your ascendant is going to be moving retrograde during this period of time, and there will be a Cazimi in your 11th house shortly after this solar eclipse. So a really important download of information about maybe your place within a group and how you can become an individual within a group that will be coming when Mercury retrograde is going into the heart of the sun at 22 degrees of Aries shortly after. So I hope that's helpful for you. And if I'm just going to go back and talk about that Mercury Cazimi, for Aries rising, you could be getting some new information about yourself, your body, your character. For Taurus rising, getting new information about maybe influences that are undermining you, whether they're your own mental thoughts or an external force. May also be new ideas about how to get some rest and some solitude. All right. Tarja T says hi from Helsinki. Nice to see you, Tarja T. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Love my Finnish friends stopping in. Julene, what's up, Julene? Just in time for Gemini. What's up, Julene? Nice to see you again, my friend. Hope you're doing well over there in Arizona. Okay, so hopefully I have given the Gemini risings the guidance that will help and that they need, and we'll keep moving forward. Lisa says, Spencer, do people with natal Mercury retrograde have an easier time during Mercury retrograde? That's interesting, Lisa. I'm a Mercury retrograde native, as is my partner, and we seem to experience it that way. I would say that there's two ways of thinking about it. Of course there is. There's always two ways of thinking about something with me, right? The first being that I think that other people are maybe communicating in a similar fashion as we are with Mercury retrograde natally, where it might feel like people are on our wavelength. Conversely, I will also say that Mercury also rules various topics in our chart, whether it's retrograde or direct. And when it is retrograde, we probably still have delays and challenges with those areas of our chart as well. Like, for example, I'm a Leo rising. Mercury is retrograde in my 12th house. So it's not in a great spot for hosting of my 11th and my 2nd. Now, I have a mitigating factor in my chart with Venus in my 11th house in its own terms and Gemini. So I have better relationships with groups, although I'm a bit of an isolationist. I love this group, but going out and feeling like I belong in a more social, in-person type of way, I've always struggled with that and have struggled with finances. So that's my Mercury retrograde in the 12th. What I will say too is that when Mercury is going to be transiting retrograde, I will probably have to be reviewing my relationships with the group. I'll have to be reviewing my finances. It's going to be tax season. those of you who are in America, you got till Monday to do your taxes before Mercury turns retrograde. And I've had a real bear of a time. Last year, tax season fell with Mercury retrograde in Pisces, which is kind of the most challenging thing for like tax season. And I've had to have like some delays around my taxes that have been frustrating. So if you can get your taxes or anything that's Mercury ruled done before it turns retrograde, that might save you some headaches. So I hope that's a good answer for you. I think, yes, you might be able to communicate in a way that is more comfortable and familiar to you, Lisa, but you still may have to do a review process in regards to both your Aries area of your life where Mercury retrograde is actually happening, and with it hosting the Gemini and the Virgo topics in your life. There may be reviews that happen around there as well. All right, Julene, yes, give me the thumbs up. Say hi to our friend Keegan. Julene's got a football player that she's raising, he's a big boy and he's gonna be a star. I'm just wishing you the best, Keegan. Hope everything's going well for you over there, and you're getting everything that you need, and wish you success with this upcoming season, bud. All right, so let's see. Cancer rising. Do this, Cancer rising. So Cancer rising. Ooh, this is an angular eclipse for you, Cancer rising. We've got the sun and moon coming together with the north node, Venus retrograde, and Venus under the beams and Mercury retrograde. All of the sun and the moon conjoining Chiron in your 10th house. Holy cow. Your public face, the way that you present yourself out in the world, could be related to career, but it is more about how you find a sense of purpose out in the world and what is visible. We have Mars and Saturn coming together, hosting this lunation from the 9th house. So maybe the death of a belief system, feeling the chasm, as someone said earlier, between what is possible and what is happening in real life. This could be through long distance travel, maybe the death of a travel dream. Maybe there's changes in your life where you're like, I can't travel as much or something like that. Or maybe there's something with the legal system that you're working on, or something with higher education. It could just be your way of seeing the world, and how you're finding meaning it's changing significantly. There is also the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction happening in your 11th house, which is related to groups. So there could be something where you're fixing your relationship with a group potentially. I would also advise you to keep an eye out for the 2nd house of money. This eclipse is shutting off the lights with the sun in the 10th house that is hosting your money house. So this might be a difficult financial time for Cancer risings. And if you know a Cancer rising in your life, go support them. Go buy their wares and support them with all the goods that they're doing. I'm going to give another shout out to my Cancer rising friend, Janet Goodspeed, who has a business called Good Sigil. And she has a sale going on. I think it's still going on. You get 40% off her beautiful tarot pendants. She's raising money. She's about to have a baby. All right? She's about to go on maternity leave. So she needs money, friends. Go buy her stuff. Go support her. And this is just an example of what the challenges with an eclipse and the changes that are going on with people where we can support each other on these eclipse journeys. Venus for you, Cancer rising, is going under the beams, and this is related to your 4th house and to your 11th house. So there could be some changes where you have some strong desires to make changes around your home and with the groups that you're affiliated with, but you have to be careful about being too aggressive in those areas. You don't want to pursue your desires to the point where you're alienated the help and support that you want to gain through that. So you may have some disconnects with family. You may have some challenges with the group. You may be desiring a change with that, but we kind of have to live into the answers when it comes to that. All right. Julene says, yes, I do. And thank you so much for his reading, Spencer. It was fantastic. Oh, yeah, Julene, I'm assuming I can share this since you said this in the chat. Yeah, Julene and I were just had a nice reading. She says, I'm so glad I booked with you for guidance for him. So appreciative of your talents and the time you spend. Yeah, Julene came to me to help break down her grandson's chart. And we had a really nice talk, and we talked sports, we talked just parenting and life, and really enjoyed connecting with Julene and hopefully helping to guide her and to guide her grandson towards success moving forward. And again, I wish you all the best. And I just love connecting with people, especially people we've created community with in the chat. So yeah, okay, good. So thanks again, and thanks Julene for. Again, Julene's a supporter of the channel who's been really generous over the years here, and I just appreciate you as well. KP says, I'm anxiously awaiting my Jupiter signet ring from Good Sigil. So excited. Oh, KP, you are helping our friend Janet. She does such good work. Janet is one of my favorite people. And I'm so glad that you're supporting her, KP. She needs our help, and I think that she deserves our help is what I will say. I think that that's really what I want to say is she does a lot of good for the world, and she's an incredible artist, and I just hope that she has success with her new family that's coming and her new situation. And yeah, the more we can support the creators and the artists who are going through those challenges, the more we're going to be able to uplift each other, right? Like they used to have a village to raise a child, right? And I think that this is Janet's village time where we can be her village. Check her out. Good Sigil. All right. Cancer rising. How you feeling? Feeling good? Yeah, KP says, yes. Thank you for letting us know about her unique and beautiful jewelry. It's, yes, good stuff. Again, if I like stuff, I will shout it from the rooftops. And more so, it's not even the stuff. I just like the people. I want to support the people. And if they're doing good work, even the better, right? Okay, Cancer rising, new start, 10th house, how you present to the world, temporary shift in finances that will necessitate you being more visible, maybe eventually over the course of this particular eclipse season. Maybe a Mercury retrograde Kazemi moment about how you share your vision with the world. So this could also be something related to changing your messaging around your products or how you present to the world, so that you can make sure that you're attracting the support that you need. And that's going to necessitate a shift in beliefs. Okay. All right. Let's go forward. Leo rising. Leo and the Jets. Leo and the Jets. Sorry, I'm Leo rising. Forgive me for my musical interludes. So Leo rising, you have the new moon solar eclipse in the 9th house. It is being hosted by Mars, who is coming together with Saturn in the 8th house. There's a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in your 10th house. And the eclipse is shutting off power, to your 1st house. I'm just getting nervous about this one. Let's see. Oh, Julian's going to give me another compliment here. Sorry. Let's take a time out for this. It says, I've experienced a lot of readings, and I have to say Spencer reads in a very unique and rich way. Truly one of a kind method. No words. Thank you. I couldn't recommend you more. Special stuff. Oh, Julene. This is, thank you so much, Julene. This is the type of thing that, for all you Leo risings out there, when you get a sincere compliment from someone, that is like lifeblood. You know what I mean? Nah, sorry, I don't mean to embarrass you. You're not embarrassing me. Like, I love when people say stuff like this. Like, if the best thing that you can do to a Leo rising is appreciate them, or a Leo person in general. This is why I send all my love to Janet, Leo sun, is she needs a bit of appreciation. We need to acknowledge our Leo friends. And I appreciate you, Julene. Leo moon, you know, and I want to lift you up and tell you how great of a mom you're being, you know, in a difficult situation. And I hope that you got that messaging in our reading is, man, you're doing a great job raising that kid. And, you know, even if you don't have all the help in the world, you are doing an awesome job. And he's lucky to have you, you know? So here's the thing. Us Leos, we need to be cheerleaders for each other and for everyone, okay? This is something that we realize about Leo rising. And I went on a long Leo diatribe about this last week, so I won't do this again. But again, support your Leo friends and appreciate them. If you do, they will be so loyal to you, like that. You have no idea that is like air, oxygen, okay, for them. That being said, Leo rising and Leo moons, Leo suns, Leo, etc. At the end of the day, that stuff feels really good, but we should make sure that we're not getting overly dependent on the need for approval, that approval comes from within. And we should still uplift one another, but at the end of the day, we've got to look ourselves in the mirror and say, did we do the best that we could? Yeah, okay, that's enough, right? Okay. Yes, Leo moon. Totally heard you. Good. Glad to hear that, Julene. Benel Dell says, I second all of that. Julene, good, Benel Dell. Benel Dell, are you someone I've had a reading with? Sorry, I just don't remember your screen name. Maybe you've told me this in the past, but you don't have to reveal yourself here, and if you don't want to. Sometimes I like to know who people are. But anyway, so Leo rising, 9th house solar eclipse. It is the ruler of your ascendant. So this is a big eclipse for Leo risings. And the person I was telling you about, my friend, who is moving out on his own out of his mom's house after moving back in for a period of time, he's a Leo rising, Aries sun, and he's really stepping out into independence. And for us Leo risings, this might be a big step towards independence that is necessary, because maybe there's some changes that are going on in our characters and our circumstances. The Venus is moving under the sun's beams. Venus is related to our 3rd house and our 10th house. There's some changes and challenges around maybe the way that we present ourselves to the world and our daily habits and routines. Jupiter is coming together with Uranus in your 10th house, Leo rising. So you may be able to fix something that wasn't working potentially in the way that you present to the world. You've all heard me be transparent about trying to figure out ways to support the channel and my own hangups about it. And maybe there will be like something going on with that'll be changing. Mars and Saturn are coming together in your 8th house, shifting some perspectives around shared resources with others, shifting perspectives around debt. I'll just say one thing too. I've been trying to change my student loan status. I got kind of not forced, but I got put into a program when I was younger, when I couldn't afford to pay my loans because I was kind of a starving artist, where the private loan company put me into a forbearance period and didn't put me into an income-driven repayment plan, which would have been the more appropriate thing, and would have accelerated my loan forgiveness program. And one of the things that I'm looking to do in the next few weeks is there's an enrollment period for those of you who have student loans that were pushed into like forbearances instead of income-driven repayment plans. I'm looking into resetting that clock so that I actually get credit for payments that I've been making for like 20 years, okay, where that might potentially, fingers crossed, say a prayer, lead to some of my loans getting forgiven a lot quicker. And that would be a huge boost for me and for my vision about debt and things of that nature. So that's an example of like something that a Leo rising could be experiencing. Changes around a debt, changes around our belief system about what is possible. Like maybe, let's say, for example, like my debt gets forgiven in the next however many months or years or whatever. that could change the way that I would view my ability to move under my own power, which is the moon and sun coming together, and a desire to move under my own power without having to have ties to, uh, a financial narrative that doesn't serve me anymore, right? And this could be also changes around how we view ourselves in society as well. That, like, I'm using my own example, but I've put out a lot of material on this channel in with the ethics around it being accessible, and it's been difficult for me to ask for what I need sometimes because I want to be of service. And maybe with an Aries eclipse, for us Leo risings, we are able to start to say, this is what we need. Sorry, we need to, we have things that we need to pay for. We need food, we need shelter, we need basics. And that might be something that will be easier to advocate for, or that we maybe have to force to be advocate for because of circumstances that will be changing during this. Just be real careful about how you present your vision out in the world. I'm trying to be very conscientious of this as I move forward with my own changes, is how can you attract people to support you willingly rather than trying to, like, force people to. Like, I never try to force people to contribute to this channel. Like, I think that there's so many different ways people can contribute, like intellectually, spiritually, just by your presence. That to me is really important. So not setting standards, I guess, for what that support looks like is, I think, important. Being open to receive the help that you receive in whatever form that it comes. So really important for all of us to remember that is when we dictate the terms of everything, what we're doing is we're blocking other means of support. So consider that, Leo rising, as we go along here. You may also feel a little bit shy about moving into your own power and about asking for what you want. I've experienced this. It's really difficult for me to ask for what I want. I love helping. I love helping other people, and asking for what I need is really tough. So Leo rising, you might have some challenges with that sometimes. I think, again, I really believe that the astrological cliches really do a disservice to many, many signs, Leo included. And yes, we can be somewhat subjective in our opinions, but ultimately the rising tide lifts all ships. And I think that that's something that us Leo types subscribe to when we're feeling good, when we're feeling like appreciated, and when we're feeling like we are in alignment with our authentic self. It's not even just appreciated, because when we know we're doing the right thing, it doesn't matter if other people are, giving us applause or not, right? As long as we trust ourselves. And so Leo rising, trust yourself. You may be starting a new course of study. You may be starting a new teaching thing. Like, this is something I'm considering for raising funds for my life, is new programs, new classes, new webinars. And I would hope that I would love to be able to have a lot of you participate in those. I'd super enjoyed the Deckin series that I did. I'm really loving the Deckin walk, and that's been super fun. We've been really connecting on a deep level with the group that we have. And I think it's time to start doing more of that. So that could be something that you're doing in your life too, Leo rising, is maybe you're teaching something. Maybe you're taking on more responsibility as a teacher because of the changes that you need to make in your life. All right. Hopefully that's helpful for you. We'll live into the answer together. Love it. Prudence. Give me prayer hands. Love it. I love it. KP says, thank you, Julie, and puts my mind at ease to hear all this. I feel very vulnerable with astrologers. Yeah, I mean, not all astrologers are created equal, KP. We are all just people, and we have differing levels of skill in our technical knowledge about astrology, but also in our people skills. And one of the things that I always try to do in my own readings is be a compassionate, helpful person. And that's the core of everything that I do. It's not to prove how smart I am or how, right I am. That's ego. If the core of this for me, and again, this isn't true for everyone, it is to be able to help guide people and with compassion and to witness their journey rather than tell them this is what's going to happen. It's helping, giving them skills to be able to manage their own life. So yeah, KP, if at any point you need some help or you want to reach out for a reading, those are the core values that will come through. And you don't have to sign up with me. There are other compassionate astrologers out there, but you are more than welcome whenever. Yeah. Let's see. Julene says, "You're welcome. Spencer really does care about the people, and I couldn't have felt more comfortable." Good. Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm really glad that it's resonating, friends. Prudence says, "If y'all get a ton of wildflower crunchy bitches, buy pressed flowers and dry flowers for dyes." If you get a ton of wildflowers, crunchy bitches, buy pressed flowers and dry flowers for dyes. Where do we get that? Oh, you are crunchy bitches. Is that your business? Prudence? Yeah, if you have a business, Prudence, put it in there and we'll send them your way. So maybe, Prudence, it sounds like you have a business for called Crunchy Bitches, ? That is a dried and pressed flower for dye business. And so, check it out because Prudence is worthy of your support as well. Lisa says, "I feel the compassion." Good. I mean, it's genuine. I mean, I do care very deeply about people, and it's sometimes it makes life difficult for me. Like, to be honest with you, people, I have had trouble sometimes being a citizen of the world because of how deeply I feel things. You get tossed about, and sometimes I try to be as vulnerable as I can here, but in other parts of my life I get very guarded because you have to protect that squishy center. This is a Cancer thing, man. That cliche is real. Like, we have these tough exteriors, but man, we are big softies on the inside. But again, don't underestimate your Cancer friends. Yes, they are compassionate and squishy, but please don't mess with the people that are there, who they consider kin. It's scary, myself included. Like, if there's one way to get an angry, crazy Cancer, the lunatic part of Cancer, is when you mess with their family. Just don't do it, All right. But you all are my family. So I love all of you. And I will defend all of you with every ounce of my being if anyone tries to hurt you. Okay. So let's move on. Let's go to Virgo rising. All right, Virgo rising. You have a new moon solar eclipse in your 8th house. There is a Mars-Saturn conjunction with Mars hosting the eclipse in your 7th. We've got Jupiter and Uranus coming together in your 9th house. And the sun is the host of your 12th house. So maybe a power outage in relationship to that particular place. So themes that could be coming up: shared resources. Things that happen after a completion. Could be a death. Could be a major life transition. Could be the end of a relationship. Could be the way that you merge power with someone. And this is affecting your 12th house, where you may have some undermining influences. Maybe Virgo rising. You know what I'm seeing in this? I honestly am kind of seeing the end of something that has tormented you, whether it is a secret enemy or whether it's an undermining influence that's arising from within. Mars and Saturn are coming together in your 7th house. That often is an open enemy, okay? But we're seeing the lights being turned off on a secret enemy, an undermining influence. And this could lead to a new sense of empowerment that will help you feel empowered, especially in your relationships to others that you share things with. So utilize that energy. Recognize that Venus is moving under the beams, and that's related to your ninth house, okay, and to your second house. So there could be some sticky moments for a little bit when we're trying to pursue money, okay, and our beliefs around it. But the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is going to come together and help you to remedy some of the mistakes in the past, especially when it comes to your belief systems, when it comes to higher education, when it comes to how you share your vision and what brings you meaning, okay? So there could be some really important breakthroughs around that help fix a long-standing problem. This, again, friends, Jupiter, Uranus, Taurus 3, this to me is the remedy of a long-standing problem, okay? And yes, it probably is based on material resources. I just shared a story of potentially changing my student loan terms. That's a long-standing problem that has been on my mind for 20 years. And maybe this is a shocking release from that potentially. So this could be true for a lot of us. There could be something that's been a problem for a long time that will boost our ability to move under our own power, especially with resources. And it changes the way that we see ourselves. Now, Virgo rising, there's another part of this that I want to get you hip to. Just like Gemini rising, Mercury is your ruling planet for your first house. And you've got Mercury retrograding, and it rules your 10th and your 1st. So there could be a review of debt. So here's where people were talking about earlier about, hey, I'm a Virgo stellium. Do I look at the Virgo rising thing? Well, guess what, friends? I'm a Virgo stellium, and I'm going to be reviewing a debt that I had for a long period of time. So there are overlaps with that. So there may be a debt that you're reviewing. You may be trying to change the way that you communicate about a shared resource that will give you some insight eventually when the Sun and Mercury come together at 22 degrees of Aries in the Cazimi moment, that will give you some clarity around it a few days after the eclipse. And that could really affect the work that you're doing and how you present to the world. So, Virgo rising, I wish you luck with that. I hope that your financial situation is okay and that you're able to move under your own power, and that the challenges that you're facing with Mars and Saturn opposing your ascendant, like this could also be like a health thing too, with both of those malefics opposing the first house. That whatever that is resolves itself safely and quickly. Okay, Libra rising. Libra. Before I go into Libra rising, do me a favor, friends. If you are enjoying the work that I'm doing here, easiest thing you can do is like and subscribe to the channel, to the Apple Podcast, to Spotify, to YouTube in particular. Go follow me on Instagram and Twitter. If you are so inclined and of the means to be able to do so, you can buy me a coffee or you can buy me a super chat here today while we're live on YouTube. Those things are very, very helpful for helping me to do the work that I do each week. I usually spend between 2.5 and 4 hours every week with you live, and there are much more hours that go into this in the beginning of the week. And what you're doing is you're helping making this show better. You are helping me to be able to upgrade equipment. You're helping me to just be able to devote time to this work and not have to do a different job to do this work. That's the real benefit. You're buying me the gift of time so that I can make these slides, so that I can make the production values better, so that I can, not have to do some other weird hustle that will take away from this work and provide for you. So appreciate all of you who are able to contribute. Check that out. Maybe we'll start some membership thing soon, but again, this is the easiest way to support the channel. Super chats, buymeacoffee.com, purchasing a webinar, or signing up for a reading. All right. KP says, my brother is a Virgo rising, spot on, recovering from health issues and planning to buy a house. Oh my goodness. So that's reviewing some debt, right? Oh, so I wish him luck with his endeavors. Devin, thank you for the super sticker, my friend. Appreciate you. Always a amazing supporter of the channel, materially and intellectually and spiritually. Super appreciate you, friend. Thank you so much, and just enjoying sharing recipes with you. We are foodies, and Devin's always sending me good stuff to eat and to cook. So thank you, bud. And sports. We like sports. Julie, thank you for the super sticker. Says thank you for your time. Spencer, happy Easter if you celebrate. Thank you, Julie. Happy Easter to you. Thank you so much for your generosity, both of you. Just wonderful supporters of the show. And I am so grateful for your energy and your intelligence and your support. I couldn't do this work without folks like you, and you're special to me. So thank you. Okay, thank you, friends. Sometimes we got to ring the bell a little bit, but you always come through. You are incredible folks. This is a really great community. Oh, Dawn with a super sticker. Thank you, Dawn. Appreciate you, friend. Thank you for coming each week. Appreciate all of your insights and stories and your presence and your ability to be vulnerable on the channel as well. So I really appreciate all of you who are regulars in the show and that come each week. So thanks again, friends. All right. Go back to Libra rising. We got such generous folks here. I feel so blessed today. Thank you so much. Thank you for your compliments, for your comments, for spreading the word. You know, that's another easy thing you could do to help is to just spread the word. If you like what you see here, tell your friends about it. If you think that I'm a good astrologer, be like, hey, you should go get a reading from this guy, Spencer. He's a compassionate, cool dude, funny. And maybe I'm making too many assumptions. Maybe my dad jokes don't land, but I try. Okay, Libra rising. Let's break it down. This is going out to my friend Devin, who my Libra rising friend who just gave me a generous super sticker. Let's talk. So Libra risings, you are having a new moon solar eclipse in the 7th house. The Mars-Saturn conjunction is coming together in your 6th. And we've got Jupiter, Uranus coming together in your 8th house. There might be a temporary power outage in relationships to the groups that you're a part of, or potentially through benefits that you receive from an institution. Remember, using derived houses, the 11th house is the second money from the 10th, the government. So there could be some challenges with that. This could be something eclipsed around that potentially. Libra rising, this is another angular eclipse. So you all have gone through some stuff recently with the K2 eclipse that happened recently, letting go of something important. I just want to send some huge love to my Libra rising friend Maud, who lost her special lizard, beautiful little bearded dragon. So I know that this is a painful time on some level for Libra risings. And this could be a new start, though, coming up on the 8th of March. I'm sorry, the 8th of April, pardon me. There could be a desire for independence within your relationships. Maybe there's also a situation where you have been tied to someone contractually or tied to them with intellectually. And it's time where you're saying, you know what, I can't be a partner like this in this type of relationship. Could be a professional relationship, could be a personal one. You might be really desiring with the North Node in Aries to move under your own power, which is a little bit unnatural sometimes for Libra rising. Not every Libra rising, depends on the other parts of your chart. But oftentimes Libra rising is trying to create win-wins, trying to check in with people to make sure that what they're doing is not rocking the boat. And this might be a time where you really are forced by circumstance to just kind of move without necessarily needing all of that permission. Now, your ruling planet, Venus, is going to move under the beams of the sun, and it is related to the 8th and the 1st house. There could be an issue around debt as well for you, Libra rising. There could be an inheritance question. There could be a shared resource question. There could be something that's coming up where those are going to be topics that will be a little bit sticky while Venus is moving under Aries and under the beams of the sun. One thing I want you all to consider is that Venus will be moving into Taurus. Okay, let's get this. What is the time period that moves into Taurus? That is going to be a relief in the time period where we would normally have some challenges. Okay, so Venus moves into Taurus, I believe in the end of March, question mark? No. April? It's in April. I just did the astrology of April. Sorry, I'm just kind of getting my bearings here. Venus moves into Taurus on April 29th. And that is going to be a sheltering point for Venus because the sun will be in Taurus by that time. And it will, even though it's under the beams, because Venus is in its own domicile, it has something called a condition called being in the chariot. So it has like an awning over top of it that is shielding it from the harmful rays of the sun. So one thing I can tell Libra risings at this point is hang in there, be patient, and see if you can get to the Venus and Taurus period with your integrity intact, I guess. And Libra is another sign that you shouldn't take for granted as far as their kindness goes, because when something's not fair, they can be real Saturnian. Like there's no joke about that. All right. So if you're seeing something that is arousing that righteous indignation, how can you communicate your message with Mercury going into Cazimi in a way that will get people on board with your vision? How can you utilize your natural social grace to be able to win people over to your side? If Libra rising, if you're using a hammer to hammer people over the head with injustices, with especially with Venus in Aries, what you might do is you might be turning them off to the cause that you're hoping to be able to bring them into alignment with, and that is counterproductive to your ultimate goal. So try to maybe smooth the delivery and be patient about righting a wrong, especially until Venus moves into Taurus. Now, there could be some remedy of some old debt, some old mistake around a shared resource that is a liberating influence when Jupiter and Uranus come together in your 8th house. That happens on the 20th of April. So that's another point to look at. I guess the final thing I'll say, Libra rising, is that we have Mars and Saturn coming together in your 6th house. Now, this could be a health challenge, like the end of a health challenge, or maybe there's some difficult things with your health, and you have to change your perspective on something around it. 6th house is also pets. So I have a number of Libra rising friends right now who are dealing with letting go of a cherished fur baby, reptile baby. I don't know what's the equivalent of skin baby. Is that what is? Sorry, I call my cats fur babies, but I don't know what the lizard equivalent of fur baby is. Scale babies, right? Are scale babies, fur and scale babies, and there could be a challenging ending, and having to let go and process that. And I'm sending all of you so much love around that, because I know how difficult that transition is. And what I will say about being a pet steward is, yes, they are giving you love, but they are a vehicle for your love. Does that make sense? They are a receptacle on some level. And I don't mean it to be too technical, because they're a living being, but they are something that we can project our love onto. And even when that cherished companion passes over the rainbow bridge, that love doesn't die. That love is eternal. And there will be things that will be welcome recipients of your love, Libra rising. And I just wish you all the best with that, because we need your love in the world. Your very beautiful, balanced, righteous love. Okay? So keep that in mind, friends. If there's some difficult transition you're going through, your love doesn't die. It never does. Okay? All right. Here we go. Scorpio rising. We're at our 5 o'clock mark, but we're going to power through. All right. Before I get into Scorpio rising, I'm going to take another little stretch because I'm starting to get a little bit stiff. We're at that 3-hour mark, right? Do me a favor, friends. Take a stretch of your own. Get a drink of water. Get a snack. I'm going to pop a few of these mulberries in my mouth because this is the time when I start to get hungry. And low blood sugar, Spencer, is not the best communicator. Do me a huge favor, like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for the super stickers. I'll try not to talk with my mouth full, so give me a minute. I'm shaking it out, just like you told me earlier there. I really have to take care of my hips. Okay, let's do this. Yeah, hips. That's something that gets really stiff as you get older, at least in my experience, especially with all the sitting that we do. All right, Scorpio rising. I got you. Scorpio rising, you are having the eclipse in your 6th house. It is being hosted by Mars, who is coming together with Saturn in your 5th house. There is a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in your 7th house, and the eclipse, the sun is sort of experiencing a power outage around your 10th house because it is providing resources for your 10th house. So what does this all mean? OKP, thank you so much for the super sticker. So stay strong, you're almost finished. Thank you as always for your generosity. Thank you, KP, for your generosity. We've got a kind of a dream team here of generous people that show up every week, and I just really appreciate all of you who really do help facilitate a lot of this for the rest of the community, and just appreciate all of you. Okay, Scorpio rising. Yes, you're right. I'm almost there, KP. We've got this. Let's do it. Okay. So Scorpio rising, you have a 6th house new moon solar eclipse, and this is one where it is highlighting the place in the zodiac that is related to everything that pulls us away from completion of the 7th house. It's a Caden house, and the things that pull us away from completion generally tend to be things like illnesses, injuries, hard work that we have to do before we're actually done with something. Okay. You could be reviewing the work that you're doing with Mercury retrograding and how you present the way that people see your work. Because the sun is the host of the 10th house, your public face, I guess, could be temporarily cut off, and it may lead to being able to move under your own power and make some royal decrees. Okay. Mars is going to be providing resources and coming together with Saturn in your 5th house, potentially giving you the ability to end a dream around a creative project. Maybe there's something where you're finally finishing a creative project and putting it out into the world and something of that nature. It could also be like a lot of Scorpio risings have dealt with releasing old forms that don't serve them anymore. And sometimes they will go through periods of glamorizing those old forms and trying to recreate those old situations. So it always works better to move through the changes gracefully with any Scorpio placement and to release things back to the earth. Some of the ways that we try to glamorize and hang on to the past lead to things like addiction, where we're trying to hang on to some state, whether it's a state of mind, whether it's a relationship state or a state of consciousness. And I think that this is actually an important time for a lot of Scorpio risings for releasing old addictions and old habits that don't serve them, old ways of seeking pleasure that took them away from reality. And I think that there is an opportunity for Scorpio rising to be able to move forward under your own power in a much healthier fashion through releasing some of those things. Now, Venus is moving under the beams, and Venus is hosting your 12th house and your 7th house. So this could be a temporary challenging position for your relationships, and you might have some undermining influences at work. Maybe your relationship is an undermining influence. Maybe you're hanging on tightly to a relationship. Maybe there's some challenges with getting pleasure within your relationship. Jupiter and Uranus are coming together on April the 20th to help resolve any things that have broken down and that haven't been working for a long time. Maybe it's a severing. Maybe it's a separation. But maybe it's just fixing maybe instead of just severing something completely, you're just fixing a part of it and remedying something that has fallen into disrepair. Again, friends, this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, two main things: humility in the face of nature, things that were out of your control, and a boon in being able to fix something that had gone wrong in the past, whether it was through our own rashness, whether it was just through bad luck. Okay. This is a boost to being able to move forward again, and it'll change our relationship to resources. Now, one thing I didn't mention that I mentioned last week, if you want a breakdown of this in greater depth, go to last week's Astrology of April. I talked about the malefic enclosure of Jupiter. And there will be a temporary malefic enclosure of Jupiter when it comes together with Uranus. And that will last until May the 7th, which is the new moon, I believe, in Taurus. So if for everyone that I've been talking about here, when you're trying to fix an old mistake, sometimes it takes a while to unravel the old knot. And if you can hang in there from the time period between April the 20th up until May the 7th, it's not that long. It's like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. Sometimes it feels like forever when we're in a malefic enclosure. But if you can hang in there and let the process play out, you probably will find you're in a much better situation after that time. The new moon in Taurus, too, is, I think, a good one. I believe that Venus is in Taurus during that. And that's good news. Let's see. Let me make sure here. What's going on here? I'm looking at my beautiful honeycomb planner, which I love that company. I'm going to shout out, give them some props too. So the new moon in Taurus, I'm just looking at this. I'm not going to put it on the screen real quick here, but it does have Venus in Taurus. Uranus and Jupiter are somewhat close. You know, Mercury is direct by that time in Aries, and then Mars will also be in Aries. So, holy crap. Things look way better by the new moon in Taurus too. And that's, again, May 7th. Mercury will also be moving out of its shadow period shortly after that. If all of us can hang in there until we get to the new moon in Taurus 2, May 7th, I think we're going to be a lot happier with our circumstances. So Scorpio rising, I hope that is helpful for you. Again, you may feel like you have some work you got to do, but try not to push it too far, especially in your relationships. Like, you may desire changes. This is another thing I'll say for everyone. We may desire changes in those Taurus and Libra areas, but just try not to get too impatient. The circumstances for those new changes that you're wanting to make in those two areas in particular will be much better supported when we get to the new moon in Taurus at 18 degrees of Taurus. Okay? Good. Kate says, you all are amazing. I agree, Kate. Heart hands to you too, my friend. You are amazing. Love that you're here with us. Julene says, I love my honeycomb planner. I make notes on the day, dreams, happenings, synchronicity. I've been enlightened looking back through them. Yes, Julie, they are great. They are a great company. Support them. Their customer service is great. I am a fussy Virgo stellium person, and there were a few changes that I always kind of second guess the types of things, and I ask a lot of questions, and they have been awesome about just working with me to help me get what I need to do the work that I'm doing. So they are great people, super nice. And these planners are really helpful. I use these planners every single day, every single week when I'm doing the forecasts. They are my go-to to be able to get a big picture on what's going on. So support them if you can. All right, Scorpio rising, you good? All right. Okay, Sag rising, let's do it. You've been waiting so patiently. I know that's hard sometimes. I'm just imagining Steven running around. Just like, what are we getting to me? Oh, I love you, Steven. I'm just messing with you. I'm just giving you a hard time. All right, so Sag rising. I know you guys, you're still here, Steven, somewhere, aren't you? All right, so Sagittarius rising. You have a new moon in your 5th house. New moon solar eclipse in your 5th house. And yeah, KP's Sag rising. I know we have like a million Sag risings here. Sorry, I've got to change the banner here. Okay. All right, so Sag rising, new moon in your 5th house. New moon solar eclipse in your 5th house, excuse me. That sun that's being eclipsed is providing resources for your 9th house. So this is a big new start in your 5th house of either related to your creative process, to your children, to how you seek pleasure, to how you pass a legacy on. I know that we've been talking with Steven about the book that he wants to write. Maybe he's made the changes to his routine to be able to start that process. KP, maybe there's something going on with you with, like, I don't know, you got some stuff going on with a new project, something like that, right? Yeah, Reverend Kai is here. Yay. Centaur Legion. There we go. I'm glad you're here, Reverend Kai. I know you've been lurking. I know all you lurkers. Say hi to all my lurkers out there. Give a shout out to my guy, Andrew, over in England. You know, I'm thinking about you, bud. And I love all my lurkers. Just send me a little comment here. Let me know you're here if you're lurking today. We just can't help it, Spencer. Yeah, that's right. Okay. So, Sag rising, new moon, solar eclipse in your 5th house. It's being provided resources from Mars, who is coming together with Saturn in your 4th. So potentially the death of an illusion or the death of a dream in relationship to maybe your family of origin or your living situation could be bringing themes within that. Okay. You may have a shift in your belief system, Sagittarius rising, which is important because Sagittarius, they are able to take action, but only if they believe in it. Okay. Like Jupiter is a planet of belief. So Sagittarius isn't going to do something they don't believe in. They just they're true to their values. And I live with a Sag sun, so I know she's not going to do anything she doesn't believe in. Like, and I respect her for it. I love her for it. I love all of you for it. Like, that's a good quality. Okay. But there may need to be some changes around the guiding lights in your life, Sag rising at this point, because of the sun being eclipsed. You may have to move under your own power a little bit more to be able to achieve your philosophical vision. Okay. Now, Jupiter is going to be coming together to Uranus in your 6th house. And this is maybe fixing something in regards to your workload. Maybe there's a health issue that you're needing to fix. Tanya and I are thinking about going to the dentist pretty soon. Like, we have some teeth stuff we need to fix. And, you know, like if I'm just thinking about like Sag, Sun, and rising, like that's fixing an issue that's needing to be fixed for a long time. Okay. There may be something where you are fixing a situation where you've taken on too many burdens, and you'll be released from some of those burdens. This is something that I think we don't see quite enough. Sagittarius, especially the 3rd decan of Sagittarius, 20 to 30 degrees Sagittarius, carry a lot of people's burdens. Okay. They're trying to get to the winter solstice. It's the end of the solar year where they're just like, oh, I'm so tired. I'm just carrying all this burden. I mean, think about a horse. They can carry a lot of weight. They can carry a lot of burdens. And you got to check in with your Sag friends sometimes, because they will just keep going and keep doing it, even if it breaks them. So give yourself a rest every once in a while, Sag rising. Delegate some of your burdens, Sag rising and Sag sun and Sag stelliums. You don't have to carry all the sticks all the time, like the 10 of Wands that represents that 3rd decan of Sagittarius. It's super important to learn how to delegate. So, yeah, Dawn says, we just can't help it, Spencer. Feels like all of the above. You Sag rising, Dawn? Yeah. I think that you're checking in as the Sag rising crew, right? Okay. So, hopefully, Dawn, you're hearing my message, and that you're able to delegate some of those burdens that you're carrying, and maybe able to fix maybe either a health issue or a work issue that's been vexing you for a long period of time. And it might necessitate a shift in your beliefs. Okay. Yeah, Dawn, sun and rising. Good. Okay. I thought so. And it may necessitate some changes around your dreams, around your family of origin, around your domestic living situation, maybe around your house. All of those things could be ripe for potential. Now, Mercury is going to be retrograding and coming into Cazimi in your 5th house. So there could be a moment of awareness, especially related to your career and to your partnerships. So those two things often are intertwined with Sag risings. So there could be some reevaluations about what you're doing in your job. There could be some reevaluations in the agreements that you have with your partner. So those are also things to consider. So I hope that will be helpful for you. Sag rising, I'm going to give you one more little tip. As I said previously, when Jupiter comes together with Uranus, it will immediately go into a malefic enclosure for about 2 weeks. Both Pisces and Sag risings are going to feel that pretty strongly. So if you are feeling stuck and you have a situation where it's difficult, it will pass, and it's temporary. And once it does, you should be like really released from quite some big challenges that you've been facing recently. Okay, let's keep going. Capricorn rising. Capricorn rising has a angular eclipse. It is the sun's providing resources for the 8th house. And Jupiter and Uranus are coming together in the 5th. Mars is providing resources and coming together with Saturn in the 3rd house. And then finally, Venus is in that, going under the beams and going into a difficult position related to your 10th house of career and your 5th house, creative projects, things of that nature. Kate says, my brother is a Sag stellium in 5th house and spends most of life in gaming experience. Oh, that's interesting. You see a Leo rising with the Sag stellium in the 5th? Yeah, I've been getting into some gaming things, but there's a balance. You have to have a balance between reality and fiction, right? I'm trying to work on that. So, okay. So Capricorn rising, fourth house eclipse, changes within your living situation. Maybe a new independence in living situation because of a release of debt or a release of a shared contract with somebody. And you may be desiring independence in a living situation. If I use my lovely partner as an example again, she's a Cap rising, and her fourth house is Aries, and we've been talking a lot about wanting to be more independent in our living situation. We've had different. We've had to move forward away from being a landlord-tenant situation and wanting to move under our own independence. And there's a lot of desires to be able to do that, but there's been some delays around fully embracing that due to the lack of resources, and trying to make sure that we have a stable foundation before we completely move away from having a space that we could rent. Does that make sense? Like we just have a space that's sitting sort of waiting to be used, but we've been a little scared to use it and to knock down the wall because, well, if things don't work out, might want to, that's your backup plan. But there may be a situation like that for you, Capricorn rising, where you are wanting to move forward under your own power in a situation with your home life. And it's going to require changes to your daily habits and routines with the third house, Mars, Saturn coming together. You may also have some changes in your family and some changes maybe with a sibling as well. And they may be going through some challenging times right now. And check in on your siblings, Capricorn rising. Check in on your extended family members. They might need your wisdom at this point and your stabilizing presence. There is a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction coming together in your fifth house. So you may be able to change a long-standing problem or be released from a long-standing problem in the ways that you seek pleasure, in the way that you entertain yourself. Maybe there's a habit that you have that felt good at one point, but then has become destructive, and moving forward with that. This is an opportunity to move forward with that. Now, Capricorn rising, Saturn is your ruler of your ascendant. And with Mars coming together with it, this could be the end of a boundary of some sort, the end of a dream, the end of some kind of confusion even as well. So I think that there's hope on the horizon. And I know my Cap friends, you all are realists. You're often very practical, and it's hard for you sometimes to find ways of relaxing. So that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction could be remedying the fact that you never allow yourself to have fun. And it might be a time to just say, you know what, I'm committing to doing something for myself that is fun, rather than always having to grind and grind and grind and grind. And for all of you, especially Cap risings too, sales pitch alert, my beautiful Cap rising partner has just put out some really incredible new Mars, exalted Mars in Capricorn oils at her Third Coast Mojo Etsy account. A number of different subsets that do slightly different things. So check that out, and it might help to give you the boost that you might need, potentially. Okay, let's keep going. Got some comments here. It says, KP says, thank you for Sag Rising. This is definitely a relationship and hopefully a positive breakthrough moving forward. Well, I wish you the best of luck with that, KP. Just live into the answers. A lot of these things that come up are fated experiences, and we'll just have to use our grace to move through it. Okay, Aquarius rising. We're heading towards the end here, friends. We're going to do it. The marathon session is coming to a close. I said I wanted to be done by 5, but you and I both knew that wasn't going to happen, didn't you? You knew it. You knew it. You knew that my long-winded, interactive storytelling diatribes. We're going to get us done with an eclipse show through all the rising signs. No, it's all good. I can't think of a better way to spend a Friday afternoon. Again, I have no problem going on and on and on. Mostly my limitations are just physical as far as like food and fueling myself. Okay, Aquarius rising. You have the eclipse in your third house. It is being hosted by Mars in the second, coming together with Saturn. And it is also having some relations with Jupiter coming together with Uranus in your fourth house. The eclipse itself is turning off resources to your seventh house. So there could be some action with both your third house significations of siblings, extended family members, with people that you are neighbors with. There could also be changes to your daily habits and routines where you're being asked to move under your own power and trust your intuition. This is a secret signification of the third house, is trusting the knowledge that arises from within rather than trusting some orthodox system like a religious system. And I have some Aquarius rising friends who are learning to trust their gut rather than the expectations of a organized spiritual religious tradition. There may be some challenges with finances, with Mars and Saturn coming together. Maybe there's a death of an illusion. I think that's the way I'm liking to see this. There's a death of an illusion, especially with Pisces Neptune right now. We just have to get rid of a dream, a way of thinking of life that isn't based on reality. Okay. And this one could be about how you support yourself. So Aquarius rising, you're probably really in need of, getting out there and being able to support yourself under your own power. And it is going to change your daily habit and your routine. It may also change the way that you seek help from others because of the eclipse of the sun that's hosting the seventh house. So this could be a new start really for like a new job or like a new way of gathering resources. There could be some changes around your home life, around your family, and some elimination and release from some long-standing problems when Jupiter comes together with Uranus in your fourth house, remedying, fixing something. Now, keep in mind, Venus is going to be going under the beams of the sun, and Venus is the host of your ninth and your fourth house. So it may get worse in those situations before it gets better. But hear me out, Aquarius rising. Please hear me, friend. When we get to the new moon, May 7th, you're going to have a beautiful new start in your fourth house. You may have a whole new living situation. You may have a whole new relationship with your family. You may be moving into a new era. And I think that's going to be a really powerful angular new start for you. And if you can just hang on, just hold on, especially when we get the Jupiter moving through the malefic enclosure, when they come together. It's going to be a couple bumpy 2 weeks, but this too shall pass. Take the 30,000 foot viewpoint that you are excellent at doing and try to detach from conflict as much as you can, so that you can weather that storm and endure it so you can get to the other side. And then once you get to that point, I really, really believe that there's going to be a big shift, especially in your domestic situation, with whether it's regarding your house, whether it's regarding your family, whether it's regarding, how you support yourself and your support system. Okay. Maybe second house is also things that support you. So this could be people that are important to you, or friends or companions that are important to you. And by moving on from our past experience, you're opening the door for new sources of support, new ways to be able to move forward within your life. All right, friends? Okay. So let's keep going. Pisces rising. This is the last one. And then we'll do an I-Ching and an animal, and then we'll go eat some dinner or do whatever you do. in your corner of the world. Or if you're in, I can't believe that if my Finnish friends are still with us, they probably went to bed a long time ago. Sorry we're going a little bit later in the day, but I just can't justify doing these live streams during the Mars hour. I just don't think it's going to go as well. So I completely forgive all of you who go to bed and listen to the rest of it if you are in a time zone that doesn't support just staying up the whole time. And I appreciate you either way. Okay, Pisces rising. You have the new moon solar eclipse in your second house. Some big changes, new starts, are a necessitation of a new start around your finances. You have this lunation hosted by Mars in your first house. Probably some intense changes going on with Mars coming together with Saturn with your body, with your view of your own character and your own identity, and maybe changing an identity. Maybe changing, sometimes Pisces get so overwhelmed with life emotionally that it's easy to fall into the trap of, I don't know, surrendering to a victim mentality. And I'm not saying that there aren't real things in our lives that are challenging that are not our fault. Please don't misinterpret me saying that in that regard. There are real tragedies that require our deep feelings and sadness. But there are some times when we get stuck in that place and we have to start to say, okay, how do we move under our own power once again? And Pisces rising, this is a moment where you're going to have to get yourself unstuck. You got Mars and Saturn, really heavy, challenging time for Pisces rising. And there may be a situation where you've cried enough. There's times where we need to sit and feel those feelings. There's other times where we just need, hey, we need to get moving. There's probably a financial situation in your life where it's saying, hey, you gotta get moving. You know, there is work to be done. There's opportunities out there where you need to take action, take a risk, get going. Now, this is an initiating point, and you will probably see your situation start to improve when we get to the new moon in Taurus. So we've got Jupiter and Uranus coming together in your third house. So maybe remedying a long-standing situation with the way that you organize your daily habits and routines. Maybe you're finally starting to trust your intuition. Maybe you're remedying a situation with a sibling or an extended family member as well. Now, try not to push the river too quickly, especially when it's related to resources that you share with someone else or with this sibling person, because the ruler of your third and your eighth house is moving under the beams of the sun. Now, Mercury is also retrograding in your second house, so there might be a review of your budget. There might be a review of your resources, a review of your support system, etc. And of course, the sun is going to be eclipsed, and that sun is providing resources for the sixth house, which is related to like illness, accidents, work that you do you don't credit for. Sometimes we can think of that as small pets and things of that nature. I tend to think of pets as fifth house, but I see overlap with fifth and sixth house. Okay. So Pisces rising, this could be a really shocking change when the ruler of your ascendant is coming together with Uranus. Now, I will also say Pisces rising. And I know that this is going to be a little tough month, Pisces rising. I won't beat around the bush. But just like I was telling Sag rising friends, when we get to the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction on the 20th of April, Jupiter is going to be stuck in between and sandwiched in between Mars and Saturn for about 2 weeks. Things might feel really overwhelming. And I want you to promise me that you'll find healthy outlets to be able to process your feelings, to get help when you need help, to know that it's okay for you to delegate some responsibilities during that period of time, and to also understand that it's temporary. It is a temporary thing. You'll be released from those challenges. The ruler of your ascendant is going to be released from those challenges by May the 5th. Okay? So if you can hang in there, friend, until May the 5th, that's when things are going to really start to shake out, and probably for the better. Okay? So that is what I have for the 12 rising signs. Thank you so much for hanging out and seeing that. we are going to go back to my screen here. And we're going to finish up today with an I-Ching. And the I-Ching that I got, and we're going to have an animal in a second, is number 13. It says fellowship, which is moving towards the cauldron. This is cool. I like this. So, let's see here. Fellowship is related to joining together with other folks. And when we take a look at number 13, here's a few other interpretations. Community, right? Fellowship with people, joining with others, concord, keeping the group together. So this might be a time where we're really needing to lean on one another. Even though we have this point of independence, we're always a part of relationship and community. So the first line says, fellowship with people at the gate, no blame. This line describes the sort of fellowship that begins when people have similar needs. They unite because they have similar ends. This is a fellowship of mutual advantage that does not yet have firm ties other than a commitment to a goal that all happen to share. For this reason, everything will go well until people's interests start to diverge and come into conflict. More work will be necessary to transform this sort of fellowship into a true union of hearts and minds. So we just have to trust one another. I think this is what this line is telling us to do. Trust one another, especially if we're needing to work together, because a lot of people might have their own interests in mind, but that doesn't mean that we can't support one another like we're doing here today. The second line is also changing. It says fellowships with the members of the clan. Humiliation. So this is a warning for us not to divide ourselves into exclusive cliques and factions. When we start to think that one group and one person or one group of people is better than the others, we're just dissolving into this clannish thinking that really doesn't help us move forward with our goals. So that's the warning in the middle of this hexagram. And then finally, changing line in the fifth place. People in fellowship at first cry out and weep, but afterwards they laugh. After great struggle, they manage to find each other. Okay, so this to me speaks to, I think, the challenges of Mars and Saturn, and especially the malefic enclosure of Jupiter after the conjunction with Uranus. And we may have a period where we feel like, man, this is tough. Like this transition, this shedding of skin is painful. But after we are done, we're liberated from it. And we are liberated from the constraints that have been probably a long time thorn in our side. And that's going to be very helpful for us to come together with the right people. Sometimes we have to get away from the wrong folks and the wrong situations. Okay. But this is giving us kind of a nod and say, you know what, if you hang in there, it may be tough at first, but it will be for the best. And then finally, this is changing to hexagram number 50. Number 50 translates to the cauldron, cultural renewal, in with the new, establishing things, formation of a new order, devotion, creation of new rituals, polishing your talents, being of service to others. So this is a reference to something called a ding, which is a sacred vessel that you're basically like cooking things in religious ceremonies. So by joining together with other people, not dividing into cliquish factions and supporting one another and going through the process of change, we can lead to a cooking of something new, which an Aries eclipse would speak to, right? The creation and the birth of something new after maybe a period of challenge. And we're going to let it simmer. We're not going to force the issue. Like if you want to create a delicious dish, sometimes you have to be patient with the process. You want the soup to taste really good, you got to let it simmer for a while. I think this is what this is asking us to do, is how do we let this eclipse simmer for a little bit and not rush to judgment, okay? Not with Venus and Aries, to try to fix everything all at once. The problems that have come up that we're trying to remedy at this eclipse took time to get to this point. And they may take a little bit of effort in unraveling and patience. So once we do that, we let it simmer and we let it cook, and then we'll be able to have the best flavors all merging and melding together. All right, so that's our hexagram for this eclipse. Now, the animal that I got for you was the grasshopper. Look at this beautiful grasshopper here. This is an interesting animal, and I think it really works for an Aries eclipse. So the grasshopper, one of the interesting facts about grasshoppers is that there are about 11,000 species of them, and they each have their own individual and unique song. So grasshopper is teaching us about being a unique individual, which is one of the aims of Aries, especially with Aries and second decan. Say, this is who I am, and this is the process that I'm going to have to go through to establish that. So the other thing that's interesting about grasshoppers is that they can leap like a million times their body, right? Like maybe not literally, but they can make huge jumps forward. So this eclipse, even though there's some difficult things baked into it, this might launch us into a period of personal sovereignty and personal royalty, like personal authenticity that we've maybe never experienced in our life. The empowerment that comes at 19 degrees of Aries, the sun at 19 degrees of Aries, it is phenomenal. So we may be having a really positive leap forward after the deck is shuffled, so to speak. So try not to do too many things during the eclipse. This is what I will say. Eclipse season isn't really for doing. It's more about observing and reacting and understanding what is going to be asked of you for the next 6 months, for the next 18 years, whatever it is, because they are metacycles with this. So let the eclipse work on you rather than forcing it. I never force things during the eclipse. Things just happen. You don't have to force anything. There is an acceptance that comes with eclipses. So in this case, you may have a dramatic change in your life, okay? One that maybe you couldn't even see coming, okay? You probably probably have some idea. I tried to prepare you for it today through the rising signs, okay? But trust your own decisions. Grasshopper teaches you to trust your own instincts. Grasshopper doesn't necessarily move in a straight line either. They don't follow a rigid path. Sometimes they are very still, and then they leap into action. So you may have to have the stillness of the grasshopper, and then when it's go time, you got to go. And you may really surprise yourself and other people about the leap that you're able to make in your life. So to me, that's a very fortunate symbol. Okay, friends, that is what I have for you. Appreciate all of you. I am going to look through the chat one more time here and see if there's any more comments. So we have Devin saying, care and attention is what makes the difference in a meal. Absolutely. So really being present when we're making that meal, having the right ingredients, all things that the cauldron can help us with, right? Really being not distracted by things that don't matter. Like we got to have quality ingredients. Those are our ethics and our values, and taking the time and, sometimes following the recipe, but sometimes being flexible and using our own taste and our own intuition as well. KP says, my heart just jumped. My partner calls me grasshopper. Way too coincidental. Well, maybe there's a big change coming for you, KP. Embrace it. Embrace it. Okay. RC, thank you for the super sticker, my friend. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for your donation today and your gift. If any of you are interested in supporting the channel, super sticker or a buy me coffee after the fact is a great way. Webinars are for sale. Support my partner, Tanya Andrews at Third Coast Mojo. She has a number of Mars and Capricorn offerings right now that are super cool. Yeah, RC says, thank you so much, Spencer. I just woke up and can't wait to listen to the first few hours. Much love from down under. Thank you, RC. And I hope everything's going well for you in the land down under. Julian says, love this. Yes, strong clap. Appreciate you, Julian. Thank you so much for your super sticker today and for just our wonderful connection that we are having. I appreciate you, friend. All right, that's what I've got for you, friends. Thank you so much for going on this journey with me. I wish you a wonderful eclipse season, period, new moon, etc. do me a favor, please like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out. Go find me at spencermichaud.com. Check out the Book Now button in the store. And then follow me over at Twitter and Instagram in particular, and Threads if you want to. There's some, you can see stuff with my cats and whatnot, and that is super fun also. So that is what I have for you today. I will be here next week again. I think I'm going to be breaking down the Mercury retrograde. We will be in the middle of the Mercury retrograde period. I'd like to talk about Mercury cazimi and retrograde and maybe take that through the houses specifically for us and talk about that a little bit more. So hopefully you'll join me for that. Let's see. Yes, we've got some nice comments coming in. KP says, thank you, Spencer, and everyone. Nancy's here. What's up, Nancy? Just don't delegate because no one can do it as fast as they can. Exactly. So wishing all of you luck out there, and try not to take on too many burdens, and we'll get through it together. Let's join up as a community, and we'll find the right mixture and the right recipe here pretty soon. So that's what I've got for you, friends. Have a great weekend. Have a great week, and I'll see you the next time. Be kind to yourself, okay? Especially with Chiron conjoining this eclipse. Just believe in yourself and believe in the people that are your supporters as well, and try to I don't know, don't assume the worst all the time. I think that this is the thing. We need to learn to trust one another again. So be kind to yourself, be kind to one another, and I'll see you the next time. Peace.